Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Westeros. Thank you for joining us here on the Shadowcaster Network and on A Sea of Spears. We are carrying on with our campaign, featuring a spicy artisanal blend of Dornish and Valyrian blood, and they are back home in Dorne now. And then they got some exciting news last episode, which was roughly a week ago in game. They've had some downtime to prepare. But yeah, we're getting ready to roll out and see some action and some drama and some excitement. And we're going to keep our thumb on the scale of the game to tweak our balance of fighting, fucking, and flirting that everyone has come to expect from A Sea of Spears. But
three F.
Right, yeah, the ones that, oh, the 4 Fs, because there's also fun. But yeah, we're gonna skew a little bit more towards the fighting on this arc because Dorne is a dangerous place. Taking us through this dangerous place of Dorne, let's start with Bela because she's in charge. So we'll go to Erica. Who are you? Who's your character? What have you spent like the last week or so up to? And then who's gonna introduce themselves next?
You mean like in game? What I've been up to?
Yeah, like we had that week of prep time. So just in broad strokes,
Yeah.
you know.
For a moment, I'm like, in real life, it's not been like all that wonderful, but in game things have been a little different. I'm Erica, and I'm playing Balon Nymaryen, and I don't usually go first in this because I am the younger twin of the eldest children of the family. So my sister is the heir, and she's like minutes older than I am, and so I'm second in everything, except this week where I go first and I'm fucking it up, and so I have been happy to come home. We're finally home from all the adventure in King's Landing, and I won a lot. I got to hit the king with my sharp stick, and I got to win some prizes, and it was a lot of fun, and I made history and that kind of stuff. And now back home where things are more Dornish and more to my liking. It's warm, it's a little breezy, the food is delicious, and I have been busy to work at planning some fighting actually, and not just like me on several people, but more like army scale, because we are going to be fighting the Vulture King, who is starting to become a problem, quote unquote. And it was decreed by the king himself and Prince Doran, who sent our, you could call it cousin. The actual lineage is a little bit, it doesn't matter, but we're practically cousins with Prince Oberyn as well, and so he has come with some of the sand snakes, and we've been starting to prepare for a campaign to do some fighting and getting rid of the Vulture King, and we're going to be having some allies join us as well. So we're sort of waiting for them to arrive. In the meantime, we have some things to do around our own territory. We've been gone for a couple months now, and we have some new lands that we need to go and check up on and such. So my character has been doing some military planning and has been getting ready to go on a survey of these new lands.
So yeah, just one little bit of clarity. Generally speaking, the terms of affection between House Nymaryen and House Martell tends to be Prince Doran calls your grandfather uncle, and like your uncle, your grandfather, was his like chaperone on his trip to Essos, where he met his wife, and you know all that stuff. So he kind of calls each other uncle, and then you guys kind of call Prince Doran and Prince Oberyn uncle, and like that's not exactly the relationship, but it's kind of that generation gap You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah, okay.
the funny.
He's just a bit older than
this-
us, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the sand snakes, you guys do all affectionately call cousin. Those of them that you've met, and you guys used to play together in the springs, in there where Prince Doran hangs out and just watches children be happy and safe. So like, there's that. You guys got in water fights. You probably clacked some sticks together with some of the stand snakes growing up. Being all fierce.
Dunking.
Yeah, lots of dunking occurred, but yeah. So you guys are, kind of cousin with Sand Snake's uncle with Prince Oberyn. But yeah, he personally delivered it. And you guys do know that the timing of this was kind of weird. Just something that you would have noticed during the week. Robert probably could have fucking told you guys about this before you left. Like, he clearly had things in motion before you guys left King's Landing. He was clearly starting to get people together for this Vulture King shit, but you think you guys impressed him enough to get put in charge of it, but you irritated him enough that he didn't tell you in advance, so that he wanted you to be honored by the attention but caught off guard by it before you got home and could relax. Because if you do the math,
feels like a fuck it, they can do this job.
Yeah, if you do the math on the travel time, they were clearly going to do something about the Vulture King. But yeah, it's kind of a backhanded compliment to get put in charge of this wing of it, but in a pace that makes it kind of the backhanded part. So yeah, that was our pretty cool recap. The lands that you guys have to investigate still are from House Dannett, which in the first arc culminated in this banner house, Dannett, coming back to you guys with House Nymaryen, but nobody from House Nymaryen's really been there in about 20 years. So we're probably going to kick off with that little survey trip in just a little bit today. But yeah, there's been a lot going on in Wyvern's Rest this week, and Bela's been kind of at the heart of a lot of it, because she's the one organizing troops and deciding who's going to come with and who's going to stay home, who's going to be patrolling at home, and all that good stuff. So Bela, since you're in charge here of all the Ash is dead. Since you're in charge of the strategery, who introduces themselves next? But I kind of feel like it's a dickish King Robert move to say Ash.
Yes.
Well, Ash is
let's let Ash get set up a little bit again. We'll go to my older brother, Luke.
Younger, but elder of the younger brother.
Well, of my brother is the eldest.
I just wanted to clarify for. Hi everybody, I'm Robert. I'm playing Luke Harris. As stated, he is younger than the sisters, but is the oldest of the two brothers. He's a knight, and he's been getting to know the small folk, certain small folk, very well. Well, he's been home. Other than that, kind of keeping to himself. Secretly, he is just going through his training drills, working with his spear, enjoying being home, but also taking the upcoming conflict kind of seriously. If you see any flashbacks to what he's doing, behind closed doors that are not other things.
Yeah, what I think will be easiest just for timeline management, we said you guys had about a week before armies were supposed to arrive. Let's just say that you guys spent 5 days of that prepping, and now you're all right, let's go visit Dannett lands. Things are on cruise control here. We've done what we can. Let's go check out Dannett, just so that we're not having to time skip more. So yeah, this is montage
for you, Rusty.
Okay.
Yeah, with the heat in the area, how comfortable or uncomfortable is it to wear my full half-plate armor versus my chain or leather? And I do have some bonuses to heat. My endurance is currently 4.
Right. It's still going to be pretty uncomfortable, and also it's extra weight on a horse in this heat. The more acclimated to this temperature a horse is, like by being a Dornish sandsteed, the less good they are at carrying super heavy weight. So it's a balancing act to keep. If you're expecting super big fight, you could probably go half plate, but for riding long distances, it would be mail or lighter.
Okay, I do have the Castle Forge ring with the armor penalty reduction. Would that be fair enough?
Yeah, so just kind of splitting the difference for travel is enough. We're not going to worry about making stamina rolls or whatever. We're just kind of trying to go with the fluff of how we see people dress when they're in Dorne, for the most part. But there's also, like I said, the opportunity to kind of armor up if you know you're going to battle. Just again, kind of like we see on the show, you know.
Yeah, that in character, I do kind of want to show off a little bit of his heat resistance. Obviously, the horse won't have that. I assume I would have the ability to either purchase or borrow a British Sandsteed in the area. Is that fine?
Yeah, you'll get access to one. It's not going to be a castle forged one or anything like that, but yeah, you guys are a prominent enough house, and there are enough other armories coming to join you that somebody could probably have an.
Yeah, I'll definitely pay the price, and I just wanted to leave my other two horses, out of.
All right then, who is left to be introduced?
That would be me. I'm Ash. I play Adam Nymaryen, and Adam's just been enjoying being home for the first time, and well, for any length of time, because the last time he was in Room's Rest, it was for like a couple of days before heading to King's Landing. So, kind of settling into having like his own proper space in the family home, which is a thing he's not had for a long time. Has probably been enjoying being around his uncle and cousins, although probably bickering with Elia a lot because she is annoying.
She is enjoying the bickering quite a bit.
Yeah.
This is Elia Sand, not Elia Sandstorm.
Oh.
This is your Sand Snake cousin, not your
No.
beloved Aunt Elia.
I just pictured him.
but
We were going to have
Oh
problems.
no, I'm awesome.
No. Like he probably spent a lot of time with Aunt Elia, certainly kind of showing off how like his progress with his marksmanship and so on. But no, little Elia has been an annoying, icky girl, and they've probably been bickering a lot to everyone's entertainment, and just waiting for the perfect time to like dunk her in a pool or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, you guys have been pretty busy right now. There hasn't been a lot of time for childish fooling off,
No.
because a lot of people have been sparring and fighting and getting used to armor again, and you know, that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
here we're going to cycle through a couple NPCs when Adam is done, just to remind everybody who else is here.
Yeah, certainly he's he's managed to like make peace with Oris, so they're not in a huff with each other anymore. For now. We'll see how long it lasts. And yeah, he's recently kind of gotten back on a horse and tentatively able to ride again, and will have been kind of practicing that and practicing with his bow and getting ready to take his job seriously as his sister's squire, which Grandpa kindly bestowed upon him.
Assisting you in that endeavor is going to be little Robert Frey, who of course has no actual training in squiring. He's just kind of been following Alysanne Mormont and doing what she says. But you two will, he'll be there to help out a little bit. Which brings me to Alysanne Mormont, who is of course from Bear Island. Her montage of the last week has been sweating and cursing a lot. And she's been gradually stripping down her armor from that rusted, battered breastplate, and trying to get used to, Dornish style of dress, and kind of stubbornly clinging to a shaggy, furry cloak. So you guys have been helping her with that, and she and the Sand Snakes have been hitting it off and drinking, and you think a couple of, like, the older stable boys around Wyvern's Rest have been looking a little more tired than they should. With Alisane Mormont and a few sand snakes visiting, it looks like they've been making themselves at home, much to the pride but the stamina hit of some of the household servants. But yeah, so they've been hitting off the various warrior women that you lot have assembled in your circle. Sir Oris Waters, the Aurochs, has been helping out as much as he can, also helping with some squiring tutoring for little Robert, and just, everyone's been riding it at Quintain and sparring and all that good stuff. Kind of AFK this week because she is in chat thanks to voice to text. But the eldest of House Nymaryen, the Lady Reyna, cannot join us today because her player, my lovely wife Felicia, recently got a dope-ass promotion, and she has to drive to Houston for some very grown-up meetings with high muckety mucks in her company. So she's going to be missing this week, but we'll cover that. So she's been helping out with some of the logistics and the organization and all that sort of stuff, but she's going to be kind of NPC'd. I think there is one last thing that we wanted to go over during our introductions this week, wasn't there, Ash?
Yes, there was. I was wondering who gets that. Right, just give me a second. I'm ready to try and line up the camera because I've got something to show all of you.
Oh,
Holy
fuck.
crap. That's amazing.
So, ladies and
That's
gentlemen,
easily worth a destiny point.
Holy crap.
As a non-GM, I say that.
that is the sigil of House Nymaryen. Ash managed to beat me to it, getting the tattoo that I've wanted since we first saw the artwork. Oh, don't just leave him hanging. Give him a high five, Ash. Oh, there we go. Somebody got it. So yeah, so Ash got that early.
It's fucking awesome, man. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
We thought it would be fun to surprise everybody with.
Yeah,
You're fucking inside. I just cleaned the lines up a little bit when I did the digital version, so that's fucking awesome.
yeah, I did the original drawing, and then Robert tidied it up and made it look good. And then I had stickers and badges made of it.
I just placed over the illustrator. That's all fucking Ash.
Sticker mule
Amazing.
are awesome. They made me those, and I've got the actual. Fuck, I can't find them now. Didn't make a liar at me. Aha! Yes.
There we go. I got Ash hooked on Sticker Mule because they actually had they had Sticker Week a few weeks ago where there was a different special every stinking day. If anybody wants to get any stickers, if anybody has a need for 50 to 100 plus of stickers and buttons, talk to either Ash or me because we can save you $10 and we get a $10 credit. Like it's a friend link type of thing. And I got one to Ash, and Ash went a little overboard with the stickers and buttons, and then it was like, no, I need a tattoo, bro. So Ash had to one up me on this one, but yeah, they're pretty neat. So
I mean, it's not finished. That's just the outline. I'm planning on getting it colored in probably in a month or so. Either the house colors or like kind of stone or metal effect, like the Skyrim Imperial Dragon kind of idea. Like get it shaded realistic. Like, so I haven't decided which way I'm going with that, but I will be sure to show it off when I get that done.
Oh, fuck, I got my ass and build me another race car. I'll put that fucking decal on the back as well.
Well, yeah, if anyone wants a House Nymaryen sticker or badge, like, hit me up in the Discord, and I will like, I might need help with postage or something, but I'll be happy to send them to people.
Ah, so cool. Yeah. So cool.
That's the downside. Some of you may not have noticed, but Ash is not from the U.S. Ash is streaming at us every week from Scotland, which is sometimes why he has some connection issues. But yeah, it does make the postage kind of suck on otherwise really neat stuff like that. Yeah, Ash, go ahead and take your destiny point. But it's pretty cool stuff. And with that, I think we're basically caught up and more or less ready to get started.
Rusty, did you send a message in the Discord real quick?
Chat request to touch on ages of player characters. Sorry. Yes, we have fudged it a little bit with the dates of A Song of Ice and Fire, because what we wanted was for characters to be filling the role of young heroes that are tied to Robert's Rebellion, but we didn't want them to all be like 13 and 14-year-olds, like the Stark children at the start of the books and stuff. So instead, it's kind of like they're the age of the actors that played the Stark children, if that makes sense, just to make it a little bit less squicky when they decided to go to a whorehouse and get laid. Like, nobody needs to be super uncomfortable. I'm not GMing a show live on the internet where a bunch of 13-year-olds take their 11-year-old brother to go have sex, right? Like, we just we fudged the ages enough that people could still be the young heroes, but not everything awful, right?
Yeah, this isn't a book. We can't get away with that.
So what we did...
like, Adam was only very mildly underage.
Yeah. So what we did is I've fudged the age or the timeline a little, in that Robert's Rebellion ended 20 years ago, and that way everyone's a little bit older, but there are still there's still this generation of like rebellion orphans, and that sort of thing, and it's still kind of playing with the ages some, but yeah, the twins are I believe right at 20, aren't they, or were you two 19?
I have 20 on my character sheet, so yeah.
All right, so yeah, the twins are 20, and then I think next in line
Luke is 18-ish.
Yeah, Luke is 18.
18 for legal reasons.
Yeah, Oris is 17 to 18. That's their big burly former squire, and then the baby of the group, who was the first of them to get a House Nymaryen tattoo, so it tells you where his priorities are at. Adam is 15. He will be 16, quote, in a few months. We're being a little fuzzy-wuzzy with the timeline there, because that's his birthday batch is actually going to be our next big arc, and we don't want to pin down a date and throw things off. But yeah, so...
In my defense, the player, I'm 35, so getting a tattoo is not a big deal.
But yeah, so we played with the ages just a little bit. I think the characters, the canonical characters that viewers are going to recognize are still like filling the role that you expect them to fill, right? Like the Sand Snakes are still the ages that they are in order. We just fudged some of the dates a little bit so that things aren't like squicky and gross, right? So we're just not quite full on George R.R. Martining it. When we move heavier into the arc, where PCs are getting married, none of them are going to be 13 and having a wedding night with their fucking moon and stars type. Like we're going to mix all that. Like we're playing with the numbers enough to make things less gross.
Also, please finish with the winner if you're seeing this.
Wedding night with my dinosaur footy pajamas.
Yeah, nobody needs that. Though, I mean, they do make dinosaur footy pajamas that would fit grown-ups, and that would be really convenient and comfy. Right? It does give you a tremendous downside in strip poker, or so I've heard. Because if you only have like one garment on, you skip right to the middle of the porno.
But what if you put that over all of it? We'll talk later.
Yeah, figure it out. It's logistics.
Poker later, yeah.
So, that's where we're at with the ages. Like I said, we just kind of fudged the timeline a little bit, because also a lot of the characters in the books were then played by much older, characters. Robert Addy and Sean Bean as, Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark didn't look, 35 to 40, right? They were clearly meant to be 5 or 10 years older than that. Yeah, we just played with the ages a little bit, and that's where we're at. So with that, let us move back into the current timeline instead of discussing the history. You guys are most of the way through this montage week of strategizing and figuring out logistics and calling up the banners. And we're going to say that by the time you guys move out, Erica, you as Bela can have your list of the troops that are coming with you and who is staying behind. Now, keep in mind, the Vulture King has been threatening House Will just north up the road. So, like, you don't want to leave any of your bannermen exposed. So there is going to be a balance to strike there. But we'll say that you've been kind of humming that over. Grandfather has been, like, available for input and that sort of thing. One note that you did receive, like, during the week, when you expressed that you were wanting to go visit Dannett lands. Remember, you guys do have a much younger maester serving House Dannett that would probably be the one that you want to travel with you instead of the house maester, who is Grandfather Makar's age. So you could borrow Maester Ferris from House Dannett because he's one of your bannermen, but that could be something. It'd be polite to kind of trade by exchanging some troops and keeping them patrolled and stuff. But you do have that maester that is more of travel and age. You're not going to be busting out the Maester Antique Roadshow by bringing along the House Nymaryen maester. Just to break character quick, let's not make jokes about child molestation and real life religious stuff in our chat, please and thank you. And now go ahead, Robert.
I will say, when the younger maester was introduced to us, I don't think any of us really trusted him because he kind of set it against us in the hearing with the king. But he proved to be telling the truth. That was really the Dannett girl.
So yeah, Maester Ferris, it will be accessible if you guys want to bring a full-on maester, to bring along. I think that would be the way to go. But again, it would kind of be polite to do a little, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and something else to factor in for troops. But I think we've got just about everything out of the way. Was there anything else in particular people wanted to do before this trip to Dannett lands? Anything that like needs to be role played ahead of time? Any particular preparations for the trip to Dannett lands? Anything like that?
I'm good.
Yeah, not really. Not related to that stuff at all.
All right then. Let's just conveniently say that the 3 PCs are certainly going to visit Dannett lands. Reyna, though it was her idea to go, is feeling a little overwhelmed with overseeing the amount of paperwork, ravens that are going out. She's kind of handling that side of things for Bela. Bela is poring over a combat map and moving little armies around. Reyna is the one doing the math and figuring out how many points the Warhammer army is costing, right? Like, she's handling that side of things. So Reyna is doing all that, and then she also does remember that it wouldn't be terribly unlike Lord Edric Dayne to arrive a few days early. He might be riding quickly, and I would love to be here when he arrives. So she begs off this trip to visit Dannett land.
We have a big discussion, though, about it. Bela is not pleased that she isn't going to be going to visit the Dannett lands.
Reyna isn't pleased either, but we got to do what we got to do for somebody having to miss out of character.
Oh,
so,
sure.
She has to hang out at home. So the 3 PCs are going. The Lady Iris Dannett is going. Who else do you lot want to bring along? Any particular NPCs up to and including like a unit of knights, or right, like it's basically Bela's call. Let's say, though any of you are free to invite so and so the Sand Snake, or blah blah blah. But in terms of troops or bannermen being kind of ordered to come, that's largely up to Bela, since she's in charge this episode.
Yeah. So for troops, my plan is to bring along a unit of cavalry from House Bridington, and the idea would be that they would come with us to Dannett lands, would then act as a guards, so to speak, for the area. They'd be able to, ride around and patrol the area to give them protection for the time being.
Right. And Sir Adam Bridington will certainly express every confidence in his men being able to do that sort of thing. He does mention his concerns that none of my current lads have ever been to Dannett lands. I read them back in the day, so he kind of seems to be offering to come with. He certainly isn't telling you can't have my knights unless I lead them. But you do remember you guys have never been down to Dannett lands either, so having somebody that knows the terrain might be handy to at least help them formalize some patrols. But remember, the patrolling is basically what the Bridington riders do for you most of the time, so they seem confident in their ability to do so.
Okay, yeah, so I will I'll tell him that it'd be great to have him along if he has some experience in those lands.
Yeah, because they were part of Nymaryen terrain, so back in the day he rode around there some.
Yeah, quick question.
Go ahead.
Has grandfather decided to turn back on the water that he had turned off all those years ago?
He very probably will.
He did. He mentioned that
like spigot he can turn.
Yeah, when we were up in his solar, he did mention about redirecting the stream that he previously redirected to deprive their lands of irrigation.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's going to be something that is a fairly major irrigation thing that, out of character meta narrative, you guys are going to be in charge of allocating some house points when we do a couple months of downtime prior to young Adam's big birthday bash. That's going to be some of the stuff of allocating some house points to put some streams or a river or so it's going to be stuff that can be set in motion this week, but with all this preparation for war coming, it's not something that can get fixed just yet.
Okay.
But yeah, grandfather's not like, no, I'm still going to kill their small folk. 20 years of disloyalty. No, he's not. He's like,
okay,
they're ours now. We're going to look after them. But it's something you guys are going to have to handle.
Right. It was more of just like news that I wanted to be able to bring with us to their population.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody else you guys want to bring along?
Yeah, I was just going to second the notion of taking Sir Adam with us, just for him being someone who knows the place better. Certainly, if we're going to be leaving a force down there to help kind of look after them, I can't think of anyone better to put in charge.
Anyone else? Going once?
No,
No, sounds good.
All right,
no
then.
other friends that you'd like to bring along? We'll bring along their maester and return their maester to their lands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was actually Maester Ferris is already down there.
Oh, okay.
He traveled with Lord Adam's remains, so you expect to meet him there, and then you could kind of take him back home. So yeah, he should be there by now.
Wait, when you say take him back home, do you mean to Wyvern's Rest or to Dannett lands?
He should be at Dannett lands.
Right.
If you want him to accompany you on campaign, you could just kind of take him with you after today's trip, take him back to Wyvern's Rest, and then he goes with your army to oversee ravens and stuff.
I mean, don't we have our own maester?
You do, but he is Grandpa
Very old.
Makar's age. So, yes, Maester Elston probably shouldn't be trekking through the mountains and going to campaign.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, then, I will certainly bring up this subject when we come across it.
And speaking over it with the Lady Iris Dannett, she seems just fine with that. She seems to regret that Maester Ferris won't be there while she is adjusting to trying to oversee these lands, however temporarily. but she certainly understands. And Maester Elston has been very kind to her during her stay here, and she doesn't want the kindly old Maester to get hurt. So that will be one of her first kind of grudging signs of agreement with you guys about something, and of showing some affection to a member of the, rulers of Wyvern's Rest. Like, she doesn't say, no, take your wrinkly old Maester, and I hope he dies, right? Instead, she's very polite, and she does seem
We're
a little
getting
bit
to her.
Yeah, so she's warming up, however slowly. She's getting accustomed to things. So.
Can we fight to the death in a battle of intrigue? Metaphorically, death.
How do you die of intrigue?
I don't know. I was being dramatic.
I'm just thinking of like some really withering insult, like oh.
Oh, we just need to get a bard. That's all.
I feel like the player of Adam Nymaryen is the last one that can talk shit about anyone dying of embarrassment.
Yeah, okay, I'll cop to that.
So, you lot head down, leaving early in the morning when it's still a little bit cooler, and you're flanked by about half of Ser Adam's knights. The other half are kind of scattered up ahead as outriders and that sort of thing, because it is hostile terrain, and it's troublesome to feel that way riding here in Dorne on your own lands. But there's no denying that, you're remembering the Vulture King has gotten dangerous enough and brazen enough in these attacks, that it's a little unsettling to actually take outriders and an escort kind of seriously in your own home. You're like, no, damn it, like we were supposed to feel uneasy in King's Landing and then comfortable and confident back home. But instead, it seems that, your attempts to quell the brigand trouble, up to and including, of course, the incident just a few months ago that got Van and Rivers knighted. Like, you guys have been nipping this bandit trouble in the bud, but it certainly just hasn't been working. So, in a way, perhaps it's a bit of a relief to know that Prince Doran and even King Robert are wanting to kind of give everyone the all clear to clear this all out by the root. But the tendrils of the Vulture King reaching even this far is a little unsettling on your trip, but you are not attacked on the way there. It's just disconcerting to see the scouts actually having to scout and not like half-ass it because they're home, But you feel better with them there. Sir Adam Broddington rides near the carriage and kind of next to Bela, where he is, of course, asking for yet more details of your joust and telling you many details of his jousting, his first joust, which was 35 years ago, back at Highgarden. And, so you guys are able to, pass the trip fairly comfortably. Adam, are you riding in the carriage, or did you saddle up to make this ride yourself?
Like how, like precarious is the actual route we're taking? That's going to be a factor.
It's not. You're still kind of going along the Stoneway towards Dannett Lands, and then Dannett Lands themselves are fairly flat as you move away from the Stoneway.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not going to be rickety high mountain pass type of terrain.
Well, I mean, I paid for a new horse, so I'm going to use it, I guess. So Adam is going to be riding his new Bloodbait courser called Bard. Going to be riding near the carriage, probably, to kind of help keep it safe, but might also kind of not fully join in with like the proper frontline scouting, but will scout a bit, try to find, just kind of try to kind of sort of watch out at a distance because that's what he's good at.
Right. So you can travel a bit behind the carriage at times. Then when the road widens up, maybe you go ahead and ride a little towards the front. So you're just kind of, my assumption for all of you is probably staying fairly close to the carriage because you are kind of escorting one of your banner folk.
Yeah.
How about Luke? Is Luke riding along? Is Luke driving the carriage? Is he? You've got options.
He'll be riding his sand steed. He's going to stay near the rear of the kind of baggage train, or however we have, I guess, just a group. And he can lie on there.
Oh no. Discord is really screwing up here. Hold on. And it looks like this is my connection here on Discord. Alright, so let's see if we can get them back in a few moments.
Yeah, Robert's gone on my end, and Erica,
Okay, cool.
you were talking very, very choppily.
Yep, so it's looks like
All right,
things
we sound
are
good now.
okay
I think
for
we're good now.
Alright.
All right, so you were riding near the carriage, and then you died. So let's pick
Okay.
up from riding near the carriage.
I'll be staying near the rear of the group, but relatively near the carriage. Keep my eyes on it at all times.
All right, you guys are able to make the trip. It's say about a 4-hour, 3 to 4 hour ride. You could probably do it faster without the carriage. Like it'd be closer to the 3-hour mark if you wanted. In an absolute hurry, it can be significantly less than that. And that's part of why there was the amount of tension that there was between you lot, because there was no forgetting for 20 years that anytime you wanted, you guys could, get down there fairly quickly. It's not, days and days out of the way or anything. But you get there by lunchtime, traveling at fairly casual rate. And you come across the edges of Dannett lands. There are some stone markers kind of laid up. There's been a few disputes about exactly where those markers should be. And once House Dannett fell under the grasp of House Ironwood, those markers got larger. Like the Ironwoods were like, well, we take our boundaries seriously. And, there's your actual fucking brick that they mounded up instead of just kind of a half-assed, cairn, a pile of, they're like, no, this is a formal kind of post type of, so the marker looks a little more serious. But you make your way past it without issue. There's no, archers waiting there to attack or anything like that. Riding directly towards the hall of House Dannett, in the distance, you do see the small folk settlement that was attacked a few months ago. It would be out of your way to go there, but it is a reminder of A, the vulnerability of these people, and B, the betrayal at the hounds of House Lugus and the scurrilous Dornish sellswords, etc., etc. You're like, yeah, I remember those guys. That was not cool of them.
I want to ride up to Bela as we're approaching and suggest that we stop by so she can talk to her people and investigate the area.
Yeah, if there's time, we can do that.
On the way now.
Yeah, it's your call. You could make it to the Dannett Hall later in the afternoon if you wanted to stop instead of going straight to the hall. And part of your purpose for the trip was to kind of survey the lands. So it's just a matter of, do you want to go straight to the hall and then leave, or kind of take a circuitous route and then end up at Dannett Hall?
Yeah, and Luke will kind of softly speak to Bela as he rides up next to her. I think it will also do good to show her we care about her small folk.
That seems wise. All right.
And he'll kind of fade back into the back of the group.
I motion for the caravan to kind of move in that direction.
Sir Adam will kind of ease up on the reins a bit and drift back towards you, and he said, "If you'd like, my lady, I could take half of the knights, and we could begin getting situated in their hall and seeing what needs be done with their stables, and make sure that that maester is ready to leave, and the other half of the men could continue to escort you lot."
Very well.
All right. You notice before they get out of eye shot, it looks like his knights have decided to kind of race each other to get to the hall. And they're like, okay, there's like 10 of us. We're going solo here. Let's just have some fun. And as you see them taking off that way, you are struck with just how flat and kind of empty the Dannett lands are. As you make your way to this kind of the only small settlement that there is, you guys are on absolutely barren lands. In game terms, if you buy a plains and don't put anything on it, it is barren and kind of does nothing for you. And that's what this is. This isn't plains with grasslands or whatever. It's just the area has just dried up. It's not full on sandy desert like you get further out of the hills, but it is very much kind of Dust Bowl era Great Plains type of stuff. And it's a dream to ride on. Like there's not even gonna be like groundhog bullshit because there's no plants for the groundhogs to eat, so there's no holes to step it, right? So you're like, hey, this is really cool to ride on, but like, how have these people not died and stuff? And that's just kind of the vibe that you get as you're making your way there. And this settlement, which is basically all they have, it's actually called Old Granary. That's this kind of weird little thorp or whatever something is that is smaller than a village, right? And you see as you ride into town, the dominant feature of them is the granaries. And you realize that this small folk gathering area is what should be the center of the farmlands here in Dannett territory, which is within a very short ride. So like they gather up the grain here and then they can transport it to the hall in an emergency. But about as far as you can see, it's this sort of awful dusty brown, how in post-apocalypse movies they do camera tricks to like wash out the color, like it's that vibe. This is not the lusher green of the territory around Wyvern's Peak and the greenery leading towards the bay in Aunt Elia Sandstorm's territory and all that. Like this is what happened. This terrain itself is in a way another casualty of Robert's rebellion.
At some point, Luke will get off his horse and just kind of reach into the soil, the dusty soil, and let it go through his fingers. As he just kind of takes in, like, the result of this.
Yeah, and it's just kind of dead grassland as far as you can see. There are patches here and there of, dry, brittle nonsense trying to grow. But yeah, it's dustier than normal because there isn't enough growing to like keep the dirt down, and yeah, it's just kind of a reminder that like, this happened a few steps removed from, but as a direct result of Robert's rebellion. And as you guys are kind of, slowing down and that sort of thing, the Lady Iris has moved up to the front of the carriage, and she kind of has like a handkerchief over her mouth a bit because it's been some time since she was in this dusty region, but she points out to you and she gets a little bit talkative as she says, yes, behold, Old Granary, Uh, it has not been in use for as long as I can remember. The people do what they can, and they eke out enough to survive. And here, as you're riding slowly towards the settlement, you do see some stuff growing very close to it. But it looks like what you would expect of like a subsistence farming garden near a village, not... These people should all be growing this stuff as like the breadbasket of all of House Dannett and contributing to the granaries of House Ironwood, or now House Nymaryen again, right? So like there is some that it seems like they have somehow worked hard enough to eke out some crops. As you're riding close, you do see some kind of brittle, desperate stalks of grain and that sort of thing. But yeah.
I'll kind of ride up next to Bela and look and kind of quietly, not for Lady Iris's ears, but say, grandfather didn't do anything by halves, did he?
Luke says very loudly so everyone can hear. No, this is our fault. We take responsibility for it.
Yeah, I mean, not us personally, brother, but, well...
No, but
we may not have started it, but we're going to have to finish it.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
You are left with the impression of, out of character, the PDF that I sent you guys. It's clearly had a cascading effect on the region, where without grain enough to accrue wealth or influence, they're not able to maintain much by way of power. Without power, they're not able to maintain much law. And as a result of all of those combined, also the population has gotten low, because there's also low population, so it's hard to get power, so it's hard to get, so it's just kind of been a, kind of a Westerosi equivalent of like a failing Rust Belt town for 20 years, right? So that's why so many of those stats that you guys saw in that PDF, because viewers, just have officially statted up House Dannett as a new banner house, and they have full access to it, but that access ain't good. And you see, as you do approach, a rather pathetic kind of band of about 20 somewhat burly, strong men with pitchforks and a few spears and a couple of wood cutting axes and that lot. They are assembling and trying to kind of muster up in ranks. And you remember, of course, that these people lost over a dozen small folk not that long ago, and they see strange riders approaching, and you can see more of them kind of rushing hither and yon. Some people are hurrying up to try and join this little kind of small folk militia unit that's forming up. A lot of smaller figures that you see in the distance are running for cover instead. And you notice that they're all running towards the looming figure of the old granary itself. And it looks like
Bela,
they've got a panic plan in place.
Bela, may I ride ahead and try to calm their nerves?
Yes.
I'm going to kind of pull back to the carriage and... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the Lady Dannett was going to speak up if she heard that. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to specifically go back to where she was at and ask her if she'd come with me.
It would be best if I went alone at first, I think. Let them see me riding without the lot of you, so that they know that I am capable of riding away from you.
I get off my sand seat and I hand her the reins.
She will take a moment. She is not terribly graceful as she clambers up. You get the feeling she's about animal handling 2, no dice in ride, right? Like she is not particularly trained in it, but just kind of that default. She doesn't look terribly uncomfortable, but she's not. It's a stark contrast to Bela or Reyna or Elia or Obara saying.
I also grab my small sword and I hand it to her hilt first.
She makes a bit of a face and waves it away. I wouldn't want to drop it.
It is but cheap steel, but it is your choice, my lady.
And then she just takes off at a little bit faster. Is it trot and then canter? Is canter the next one up? I don't remember.
Yeah.
All the horse gears. But yeah, so she just
canter gallop.
Yeah, so she moves up to a canter, and you lot can kind of follow at a walk. And you arrive as she's in the middle of explaining things. And you can hear her voice, of course, louder than you have heard it to date. It's also the first time she's been addressing a group of people, but you also feel like there's a little bit more lady in her voice than you have heard before. And she explained, she's waving over her shoulder. She says, "You were deceived. We were all deceived. Even my brother, your Lord Adam, our Lord Adam, believed these lies. But they were lies. House Nymaryen has much to answer for, but they do not have to answer for the death of your grandfather, nor your uncle, nor your son." And she's pointing to some of the, individually, she's looking at a few of the, I don't want to call them rabble-rousers, but a few of the organizers. It's a little weird that, they have few enough people that she knows them and clearly knows who died, which means she was listening when they first started yelling when she showed up. So you're like, she maybe kind of knows what she's doing with this, But yeah, and she's just explaining, what you heard from Master Ferris, or son of the writers is true. We are once again under the protection of House Nymaryen of Wyvern's Rest. And you clearly see some muttering and all that. Nobody throws anything. Nobody postures up with a spear, but they seem surprised at the confirmation. But then she lifts her chin a bit and she says, "And so we will act accordingly. Members of House Nymaryen are here now to see to the needs of the Dannett lands and the Dannett folk. They are here to survey this territory that none of them have set foot on in their lives before. They are here to learn of us and our needs, so that when they return from a campaign, those needs may be met." And then she kind of trots sideways a few steps for you lot to kind of arrive at her side, and she gestures to Bela.
Okay. I will get off my horse so that I am no longer literally on a high horse, and will approach at I'll say like a moderate distance, so I'm not like right up amongst them, but not like far away either. And I'll say that for many generations, our people were under one banner, and those times had their ups and downs, but were prosperous for all of our families, all of our houses. Recently, things have not been so good as of the war, and it's a shame to see the lands in the shape they are now. You have my word that we are here to build up your lands again and provide you with the opportunities to make this land what it was.
Your answer is small folk grumbling and muttering. None of them seem willing or interested in stepping forward and singling themselves out. But your answer in the closed captioning on the TV show would be like skeptical muttering. Let's go with that. Like it's that sort of like nobody's, trying to lead any sort of charge. No one is yelling their doubt or anything, but you just kind of get some disgruntled murmurs. A few of them seem to be nodding, like, maybe we should give them a shot. A few more of them are clearly not nodding. Nobody is doing anything to particularly draw your eye. Again, like no one's grabbing a rock or spitting in your direction, things like that, but skeptical muttering.
Adam could sort of chime in some support if you would like that. I didn't want to assume that you want that.
If you chime in, you chime in. It's fine. Like, Bela didn't approach you beforehand and say, "Do not say a word, or I will have your tongue." She wouldn't have done that. So, if you speak up, then yeah.
Yeah, I think that the kind of the skeptical muttering doesn't like so much worry Adam, but like I think you can kind of go like I can be kind of persuasive, and I'm less threatening looking. I can back Bela up and maybe put some floridness on it and make it sound nice. Just kind of sort of pipe up behind the Lady Bela speaks truly. We acknowledge that House Nymaryen has been responsible for a lot of the difficulties that you've suffered, but we are here to make amends. We are here to rebuild, and I know we know that might take time for you to trust that all you have are words at the moment, but we intend to back up those words. I'm willing to throw like a persuasion convince roll behind that if it would help.
It's not needed yet. It's same sort of skeptical muttering, but you think you see a few more people nodding than shaking their heads, right? Like they're getting a little bit swayed. The last like dozen or so that are arriving are like dragging their spears behind them instead of like sprinting over here, and eventually some of them in the back are waving, and more small folk come out of the granary, and you see their grubby small folk faces carrying their filthy maggot babies. But they come up, the women and the children come up, so they at least look safe to listen more. Like as you guys have been talking, the crowd has been growing, and it's not just like the ones that think of themselves as able-bodied fighters. So they at least are that level of comfortable that they're inviting the women and the children and the older and the younger, to come listen in and hear what you all have to say.
Yeah, I like to listening kind of to Adam, but kind of stage whisper to the rest of the group, and that is Adam, it will take some time until the crops begin to grow after the levy is removed. We should put together some sort of relief package until then.
That's a good idea.
Maybe Lady Dannett could give you a list of people who may need something, or a list of needs.
That's a good idea. We should let them tell us what they need and try to provide it while we work on the longer term things.
Lady Dannett will speak up. I'm sure that Maester Ferris knows better than I at present, and would be happy to provide you with a neatly enumerated list in flawless handwriting.
Oh, that's good. I like neatly enumerated lists in flawless handwriting. That's one of my favorite.
And she says it in a way that, like, it then strikes her by the end of the line. She's sad because the only other person in the world that would get her joke is the other Adam, the one that your sister half murdered. So she kind of like starts to quit and then stops and like, wah wah, looks a little emotional roller coastery. But yeah, she seems confident that Mr. Ferris can provide you with that.
Luke let it fade back into the group.
All right then. You do notice several of the small folk children kind of gawking up at the knights of House Bridington that all have tabards in House Nymaryen colors for when they're doing specifically Nymaryen stuff. We're not going to go full on Game of Thrones where every soldier from the Westerlands is wearing Lannister red, right? Like they color coded it a little too simply there, but for when they're doing work on Nymaryen lands that aren't specifically Bridington, it's easy enough that like everyone's just got a tabard they can toss on. So they're kind of looking up at them, but you notice that some of the younger ones are looking up at them with like, ooh, look at the shiny, like these guys are in like fancy armor and they got nice horses, and that sort of thing. It's easy to take a bit of heart in that, at least. The youngest of them aren't responding to the Nymaryen sigil in an ugly way. So with that, go ahead.
Dannett, when I get a moment. I'm sorry, I like to approach Lady Dannett when I get a moment.
Yeah, I was just gonna go like, what do people want to do next? Anything in particular? So, yep, you approach her.
Lady Dannett, would coin help immediately with these people? We have some gold dragons to spend. If that would help, you could distribute it among the population if you think it's necessary.
What would they buy and from whom, sir? The answer to the problem of Dannett lands needs to come from outside Dannett lands.
Very well. I figured I would offer.
Out of character, it's one of those things where it's like, you could give every single one of them a gold dragon and they'd be like, what do I do with this? Because it's not like there's anyone in town that has food that they just can't afford, So
yeah,
it's
they
going to be
like traveling meat salesman that often.
Yeah, it's going to be a house logistics scale issue, not an individual coin to this hungry person issue.
Yeah. But to Luke, he has coin in his pocket. People are in need. He offered it.
So anything else in particular that you lot are interested in down here in Dannett Land? There's not much else to see, and there's a ride from here to Dannett Hall itself. There's trading the Lady Iris for Maester Ferris, but I'm not sure that needs to get role played out. It's not going to be particularly fun and chatty. She's going to be a bit more standoffish as she gets back to Dannett Hall. She's going to look a little more sad and then not talk very much, which has always been the most fun stuff to roleplay. So, like, it's not going to be a whole lot of interest there unless there's something in particular you lot are looking for. What you see is that trained support unit from the PDF that we sent. Looks like about half of them are out there living at, Old Granary. The other half are kind of half-assedly manning the walls of Dannett Hall. Like they're kind of mustered up there. And you see that they're in kind of no armor. It's like makeshift stuff. They've got kind of makeshift weapons. Looks like a mixture of farm implements and the occasional spear and the occasional wood cutting axe, but the stats that go to a peasant levy or a support unit, you see that they can muster up about that unit. But then you do see a unit of about 20 horsemen um, that are arrayed in pretty crisp order by the time you lot arrive, and they move pretty cleanly as one. As the Lady Iris arrives, every one of them like lifts their lance, and it looks like they've kind of drilled this sort of thing. And this is that unit that you saw in the PDF of Adam's Lancers, a green unit of cavalry / personal guard. It looks like what military force they could muster. The old Lord Alfric and young Lord Adam were determined to try and make a cavalry unit of pretty decent looking skill from what you can see. They look, again, crisp and clean in their movements as they are welcoming the Lady Iris and by extension you lot. And that's basically what you see of their power holdings. You see them all in these two places, basically, is where I'm getting at with this bit.
Do they offer, like, are we getting offered bread and salt or when we get there?
Yeah, Maester Ferris will have it available. You see that the knights, like of the 10 riders that you sent ahead, along with Sir Adam, like the last of them, like they all look like they've already settled in, and they're, talking to like the stable boys, and they're getting situated in the stables, that sort of thing. So they are within sight. They have not been killed, and then people dressed up in their clothes or anything like that. They are.
Just,
yeah.
I just think it would, it would be better to do that ourselves as well than to not do it.
Right. I just also wanted to let you know, like, I didn't mention the half of the knights that you sent, but I didn't want you to think they were dead behind the hall, because I had not. I try not to be that flavor of cheese.
Shit.
So yeah, anything in particular else that you lot have planned for Dannett Lands?
I would go over some of the defense strategy and let them know what was happening in the area, about like with the Vulture King and that kind of stuff, and just say we're gonna leave an extra set of cavalry here for more protection while all of this is going on.
The captain of their guards, a Tommen, speaks up. It's begging the lady's pardon, but I know that the Lady Iris hasn't been here for some time. So far, Vulture King seems to have, no offense intended, miladies and sirs, just not bothered taken from us. But if the Vulture King knows that you lot will be gone, then yeah, probably best to have folk here, and maybe let some of my lads get to know some of your lads, and see that no bloodshed needs come of all this. What our uncles and grandfathers did.
Indeed.
Yeah, sounds like Vulture King in particular hasn't plagued them, because there's really nothing worth taking. It's the same reason locusts don't hang out here, right? Like, you're like, oh no, we're good.
Yeah. But I don't want it to seem like we're ignoring their defenses.
Right, absolutely. And they definitely, you can see a few of their soldiers are kind of eyeballing yours a little warily, which isn't uncommon, but yeah, they also, nobody's going for swords or anything. So looks like everyone will be fine, and they maybe aren't quite at the point where they're going to vocally appreciate your intent or anything, but yeah, nobody's complaining.
Adam's going to stay quiet and defer to his older siblings and just kind of try to stay sensitive to the ongoing situation sort of be ready to
Yeah.
smooth things over if anything gets brittle.
Okay. Maester Ferris.
Sorry, that was
It's
out of
okay.
character, not an in character. Yeah, he is not Grand Maester Pycelle. He does not yawn as punctuation mark. Yeah, and when you see like as you arrive, Maester Ferris is there and packing a few goods atop a saddled horse, and another horse, or rather a mule, has an assortment of ravens' cages already lashed in place by the time you lot got here from Old Granary.
Okay. Maester Ferris, if I might have a word.
Of course, my lady. You notice he's got a bit of spring in his step. You guys have seen him under really unfortunate circumstances prior to this, but you get the feeling like maybe he's a little excited about going on a ride, and like, hey, I get to go do something cool instead of oversee a failing banner house for the couple years I've been here. Like, you're stricken again with just kind of how young he is. But yeah, he seems kind of upbeat and looks excited to like hear what you need. And but yeah, it's a stark contrast to the mood that he was in, granted, while overseeing awful shit going on in King's Landing. You guys are in a different mood too, so
Okay. So it's my understanding that past generations has seen this land be much more prosperous than it is now. Our intention is to return it to that prosperity and see it grow even more. In the near future, we plan to invest in these lands to see to that end. For the moment, we would like to offer some sort of relief to the current troubles in the form of food or other supplies. Would you happen to have a set of needs that we might be able to fulfill?
Oh, yes, quite right. I could get you a list by tomorrow. I was given to understand I'd be riding back north with you this evening, but yes, I could certainly write something up for you and leave it for you before we're off on our adventure.
That would be helpful, yes. And I did want to talk with you about coming with us. As you very well may know, we're going to be fighting the Vulture King and ridding the scourge of his never-do-wells from our lands and from the area. And it would be most advantageous for us to have a maester come with us.
His eyes are straight up lit up, and he's like, oh, yes, Sir Adam Bridington let me know. I will chronicle your glorious campaign and eagerly see that my records are sent to both Prince Doran, of course, and to Old Town just as soon as we get back from trouncing that scoundrel. Perhaps an addition to the Conquest of Dorne itself. The Conquest of Dorne is the military campaign book that was written after your great-great-great-grandpappy Targaryen after the Dornish invasion. So he just looks fucking excited. He's like, I get to write something that matters. He's like, yes, this will be it. I'll get into the books. Like, that's totally the vibe you're getting from this dude. Like, fuck yeah. I'm no longer gonna be an awful weatherman in the middle of Death Valley. I get to go be a bitchin' fucking war correspondent, right? That level of like journalist switch.
Maester, let me remind you that this is going to be dangerous, and there will be countless that will need medical attention.
Yes,
it will not
quite
all
right.
be scribing down stories and tales.
Of course. But
He's a nerd.
not to worry, I will also give House Nymaryen what glory it is due after this no doubt successful campaign against this Jonathor.
Excellent. how soon could you be ready to join us at Wyvern's Rest?
I had hoped to ride back with you, now, my lady.
Very well. That that will work for us.
And is there anyone capable of providing basic medical attention in your absence? We don't want to leave. We don't want to leave the house completely helpless.
He leans in a little, like it's a fucking secret that like people are sick and hungry. Just, until they get a bit more food and more drinking water, there honestly isn't much that I can do for the people here in Dannett Hall.
Well, we plan on doing something about that to, tide these over. Well, we sort out the longer term issues.
But yes, unless there's some sort of skirmish with brigands, or someone falls off his horse and breaks his arm or the like, there's really not much to do here on Dannett lands. What medical issues the people have require more than one maester can provide. I had hoped that Sir Adam would be able to handle those sorts of routine injuries from horsemanship.
But he's quite capable. That won't be a problem.
Right then, shall we away?
I suppose so. Let's just say goodbye to Lady Dannett, and then we'll be on our way.
All right. The Lady Iris. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Bela, we should make sure that she knows that if anything does arise, and that she can write to. She can like send a raven or something, because we're only just up the road, so to speak. So we don't want her to feel like we're just ditching her.
She does not seem to mind being ditched. Like she's like, if they do leave, then like fine, I'm alone in Dannett Hall. It's a bummer because I don't know very many people, but I get to be alone somewhere for a little bit. Like it seems like she's not broken up about people leaving and her getting to kind of decompress a bit. But she is very polite and thanks you. And she says, Maester Ferris did leave the raven, a few ravens behind, so I don't doubt that we can reach you if needed, or I'm sure one of Sir Adam's knights could get to Wyvern's Rest in little time.
All right, I have no doubt that everything will be all right, but one just likes to have a contingency.
Yes, it has been only a few months. Well, sorry, out of character, I just forgot. I think it was about 6 months since she left. It has been some time since I have been home, and in truth, I'm not certain how much it feels like that anymore with both Lords Dannett dead. But times change, and we must grow with them. Eat bitter, grow strong, after all. And we will adjust, and so will our small folk.
You will. They will.
Yeah.
With time, I'm sure things will be all right.
All right, then. We pretty much good?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Robert left, so I think he's... All right. Your ride back to Wyvern's Rest is uneventful. You're able to get there safely. Again, it's weird to feel skittish, but this time it is just the handful of you. But it's a smaller party, and you're traveling. Yeah, and Maester Ferris seems eager to keep up. You notice his mule is named Pycelle. So, and he.
I bet it's really
he-
slow.
It's actually keeping up just fine, but you notice it does have a shock of like white hair up top, like it's very pale up top, and I think it's named after his kind of
what?
sad hair. But yeah, he doesn't. He seems a little impish every time he calls it out. Hurry up, Pycelle! But he keeps up with you lot just fine, and there is no trouble on the way back. And I think what we're going to do is go ahead and take our break a little early. We're just going to take our break about 30 minutes ahead of time because it feels like a pretty good breaking point. And then what we're going to do is probably just jump to tomorrow as your army starts to arrive, Bela. The allies that you lot have been waiting on. So yeah, let's go ahead and take our break a little bit early and make that kind of our jump cut to the next big scene. And we will pick it up with the next day. So, everybody, come back in a couple minutes, and we will see you after we take a break.
Great.
All right, everybody, welcome back from break. And House Nymaryen, welcome back from Dannett lands. You guys were able to ride home without incident, though with some tension. It is a little off-putting to be wary in your own lands. It's a little indignant fury, maybe boiling a land. Oh, how dare this vulture! Rah, 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 rah. Right? So you guys are maybe a little tense and stressed, and maybe feeling a little guilty for the state of Dannett lands. But Grandfather's thought process was pretty simple. That's not their water. That's ours. The Ironwoods can irrigate their lands if they deserve them. And it looks like the Ironwoods just never did. So you were able to make it home just fine. Rest up, because you did have to ride a little bit hard to get home before dark. Not like anything frantic, but you were a much smaller group with no carriage, so it was fine. And then the next day, armies start to arrive. You are expecting assistance for your wing of this operation, which, remember, it's a two-pronged thing. Bela is in charge of the Eastern Front, with House Nymaryen leading, House Dayne of Starfall, House Dondarrion of Blackhaven, and House Swann of Stonehelm. And you're going to be moving into the mountains from the east, going into the west. Meanwhile, there is a western prong that is a conglomerate of House Ironwood, House Fowler, and the Stormlanders House Charon. The plan is to meet in Kingsgrave, which is the seat of House Manwoody. So you guys are just waiting on the army of House Dayne of House Dondarrion of Blackhaven and House Swann of Stonehelm to arrive so that you can head out. And today is the day that is supposed to be happening. And today is the day that it is.
Great.
Not long at all after dawn, in very timely fashion, a band of riders approaches from the south. And you know that must be the ones joining you from Starfall. House Dayne is one of the more prominent houses deep inland, though they are the lords of a river and the fertile land around it. So they're able to profit from that trade, and they have their own agriculture and stuff going. But of course, the Dane that you lot know is the young Lord Edric, who is currently AFK from Starfall, serving as a squire to the dashing Lord Edric Dayne. But it would seem that young Lord Edric insisted on being a part of this eastern group instead of the western thrust, because honestly they should be with that other group because they're closer there. But the riders of Starfall are instead allying themselves with you, and they're also just as resplendent as you would expect them to be when somebody says, Knights of House Dayne, or, the Riders of Starfall, etc., etc. This group of riders, it is one unit of knights, so like one full military unit, which is about 20 guys, but they are all riding very fine horses, and they are all decked out in gleaming gear that is just about the heaviest you should wear. They're actually in breastplates, but their breastplates look like they've been upgraded. The end result is that they look very knightly, but when they get close, you can see that they're not actually very heavily armored to the extent that it's going to slow down their horses or be especially taxing in the heat. It looks like they have found the perfect Dornish blend of just as armored as you can be, and they look even more armored. But yeah, they are all decked out on fine, proud war horses, and in the meta narrative, so that Bela recognizes they have both the weapon and armor upgrades for a unit of veteran cavalry.
Whoa.
So if you want to add that to your list, they might not have sent a lot, but what they sent was real good.
Nice. I will get the rest of their stats later, but that's enough for me to work on.
Yeah, and they're all in that the purple and white of their house, which along with some of the gleaming mail and bits of breastplate sticking out, like they're just dashing as fuck.
And they're led
by. All right, now we got.
They're led by Edric Dayne.
Edric Dayne is not here yet.
Okay.
Their leader explains that they would be honored to be allowed to wait within Wyvern's Rest to meet their liege lord. But yes, Edric, remember you guys left him at Blackhaven, but they were able to send ravens enough to get a unit of knights from Starfall up here to meet you.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, Edric is still squiring for Beric Dondarrion back north where you guys last saw him, but they're definitely coming here to assist. They refused to let their lord ride into battle alone. Their leader is a knight named Ser Gedrick that will just be handing command over, make it Gendrick, sorry. Handing command over to Edric, but if you wanted a name, you've got one.
Ser Gendrick. Okay.
All right, so they are the first to arrive, and then it's about an hour later when arriving, looking a good bit more road-weary and dusty and haggard, come some riders, and in the front, you recognize the banner of House Swann of Stonehelm. And leading this troop in, you notice, and riding kind of straight up to Bela, in particular, like he doesn't even stop to take in the scene to see who to report to. And if he did, he would notice that standing in the back of the courtyard is grandfather Lord Maekar, with Rhaena at his side. But he just rides straight up to Bela is Ser Balon Swann, the lantern-jawed knight whose acquaintance you made and friendship and respect you seem to have earned during your recent visit to King's Landing. And he's riding at the head of this troop of fighting men that serve his father. So the son of the Lord of Stonehelm, second son, is here to lead the troops. And he is riding in with a unit that again looks, I don't want to say like haggard from the road, unaccustomed to riding in Dorne, right? Like they maybe just don't have the tricks of what parts of armor you can afford to strip off, and how to keep the grit out of your, faceplate, and yada yada yada. But there is a full unit of trained cavalry, so another 20 riders for you, and a unit of trained infantry with an armor upgrade. So 100 sturdy Stormlanders, men-at-arms, are the infantry contingent that Ser Balon Swann brings to add to all this, along with a unit of riders that he personally leads. They get here a little early, and you notice as some of the infantry are kind of walking in two columns later, that mixed in with them, you see tabards and sigils belonging to House Nymaryen of Blackhaven. And just about then, as he finishes with some bread and salt and taking off his helmet and that sort of thing, Ser Balon gives you Lot an apologetic look. He goes, "Bad business on the roads. Don't know if it was an honest rockfall or some sort of ambush, but our convoy got cut in two, my lady. Sirs, I was riding here just in the vanguard of the Stormland contingent, along with Barrack and Edric and all the men from Blackhaven. But our party got split in twain by an avalanche. Again, I'm afraid we don't know if it was some manner of trap or just these accursed hills and the bad luck that Stormlanders find when we ride south through them. But they'll be delayed for some time."
I see. Do you think it might be prudent to go search that area for brigands that are hiding out?
I'd be surprised, my lady, if Lord Barrack hasn't already assembled his riders to do just that. I don't think he's the sort to sit still and just watch his infantrymen dig rocks out of a path. I'm sure he's scouring the countryside, certainly by now.
Okay. Very well. Well, welcome to Wyvern's Rest. Glad to have you here.
My men and I wouldn't mind a bit of drink. The baggage caravan is back there with Dondarrion. We've had naught to drink for a day and a half.
Oh, well, please. And I call over some servants to start organizing some drinks and food.
And now that he mentions it, like you now that you know to look for it, especially with the infantry that are trudging in, like every man has an empty water skin slapping at his hip. And as you get a few more details from Ser Balon, it looks like this rockfall was about 3 days back, and they were just stuck with only the water that they had with them because the baggage train's with Barrack. So it looks like they had a kind of a heck of a trip to get here. But yeah, it's no strain on the resources of Wyvern's Rest to get them, water along with the bread and salt. And immediately, like, you can't help but notice with a bit of kind of pride, like, there's no nervous side-eye glaring or like standoffish bullshit between this small army of Stormlanders marching into the heart of Dorne, and like maybe it's not so bad that they showed up kind of thirsty, because like there's no time for that bullshit. They're just like, bro, thanks for that, and they're like chugging some water and like thanking the House Nymaryen soldiers and servants and stuff that are bringing it to them, and they're getting help with their horses, and part of the logistics you've had to worry about this week is figuring out where these forces can camp before leaving after they all arrive. But you're able to send their men off, and they're able to trudge over and start setting up their soldiers' tents and all that. But they're moving a little slower than you would expect, but it's completely understandable once Ser Balon explains that like no, we've been cut off from our supplies for a couple days, and normally when that happens to riders from the north, none of them go home. So his men are, it looks like he kept them together, even the men that are from Blackhaven instead of Stonehelm. and you're a little surprised at the good order that they're in, and all that when you hear like oh shit, yeah, like that was pretty harrowing for them. From him, you're able to get just a rough count of what Beric Dondarrion's bringing.
Okay.
And he says, but again, I don't know how many were lost in the rockfall, so maybe best to wait until they get here. And then in the very back of the column that Balon Swann is leading comes young Edric Dayne.
Oh wow, he made it.
He was leading his horse instead of riding, and an injured man was riding it. So he was staying in the back, walking along with the men, and letting a guy with a clearly kind of crudely splinted leg ride on his horse. But he takes some bread and salt, scrubs his face real quick with a splash of water, then gets a drink. Gotta wash my face first. They're girls. So he makes himself presentable, kind of straightens up, and then makes his way up to present himself to the Lady Bela, who he has heard is overseeing operations.
Yeah. Oh, welcome. Welcome to the
and
Rest.
he gives you a very polite bow. He says, I am sorry that I was not able to lead more of our men here. The trip was eventful. I hope that Ser Balon has already told you about it.
He has.
I am worried, my lady, that Lord Beric may be a few days behind us, but he and his men have the food and water that we were bringing. I think they'll be all right. He's clearly worried, but like clearly trying to sound grown up.
Yeah.
Like that in-betweenish voice is cracking a little. I'm trying to get that right. I haven't had a drink in a few minutes, but he's trying to do that kind of, worried 13 and 14-year-old that's trying not to look worried, is what he's going for.
We should be proud of getting these men here without any further problems.
We did what we could, my lady. Some may yet be lost under the stone, but every man that was on our side of the rockfall is here.
That's quite the feat. We've already taken to providing some food and water to them, and they are more than able to rest now in an area over where we've set them up.
I see, my lady, that the banner of Starfall is already present. If I'm not needed for a war council, can I go say hi? I don't know who's
Yes. Yep. Go ahead and say hello.
He's like, stayed serious, and oh shit, it's somebody from home. So with that,
why can't Adam like a nice boy like that?
I'll tell him that Sir Gendrick is here with a complement of knights.
Excellent.
Robert, did you say why can't Adam get a nice boy like that?
Like a nice boy like that, yes.
I mean, I do like a nice boy. We left him back home.
It's always the bastards, either legally or in character.
Tall, brooding ones.
Dark hair, yeah. Got a type.
After Edric, I won't say scampers. He's maintaining his dignity too much for it to be a scamper, because he is the Lord of Starfall, off to go speak to his knight, But after he kind of hurries off, Balon Swann looks a little grim at you three, and he goes, "There's some news about this Vulture King, and I think young Edric's the one that means to deliver it to you.
Oh.
I would do the boy the favor of telling you instead of him having to do it, but he's dead set on taking on this responsibility."
Okay. I will give him a chance to meet with his sworn knights, and then I will call him to our war room and we will discuss this. But please take some time to get some food and water first, and then we can convene in short order.
Thank you, my lady. The bread and salt and the promise of hospitality, was appreciated, but I'll not lie, it's been a few days since I ate right. Did you bring that Bessa down from King's Landing?
We sure did.
I give him a smile.
She's
nod.
in the kitchen now, I would imagine, preparing.
Right then, I'll head in that direction. My thanks. My lady, sirs.
He'll just
My lord.
wander down into the kitchen and go like,
I'm gonna give him a friendly forearm clasp and kind of pat his shoulder and give him a nod and let him go on about his business.
All right then. For the next hour or so, it's a matter of everybody kind of settling in. You notice Maester Ferris is already seeing to the troops that just arrived, checking on a few of them. Maester Elston is with him, but you notice that Ferris is seeing kind of maybe 3 patients to every one of Maester Elston's 2, right? He's just getting around a little more quickly. But yeah, they're checking on everybody. Nobody seems to be too grievously injured enough that we need to modify unit stats, right? Like cinematically, there's about a half dozen of them that probably shouldn't march off to war tomorrow, but you guys can swap them out with some infantrymen from your garrison. You know what I mean? Like, so we're keeping the units full strength. But yeah, these guys did have a pretty gnarly trip. You're able to hear from everyone. They were never outright attacked. They didn't have waves of arrows crashing out at them or throats cut in the night or anything like that. But they still had a pretty harrowing trip. Rock falls happen, and they're definitely something that you guys are even concerned about. And it's part of why, even when there isn't bandit trouble, a lot of the patrols along the road are there to just kind of spot that sort of stuff and get the road clear for trade to continue. So even if it's not an overt brigand issue, rockfalls are dangerous in territory like this. So
Right. And it's part of the reason why our own forces have been trained to guerrillas, the nomenclature, to represent that extra training for rough terrain, mountainous terrain, where it might be slippery and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and just the types of trails you get, and we're supposed to lead cavalry through here. Like that takes people that not quite full on Maya Stone, like a whole unit of her, but it takes people that know the mountains. So yeah, it's a regular issue. It takes them perhaps a little bit longer than normal to get situated, but not long after High Sun, Ser Balon Swann and Lord Edric Dayne have gotten themselves cleaned up, gotten some food in their bellies, and through pages and running notes have let it be known that they are prepared for a war meeting at Lord Makar and Lady Bela's pleasure.
Okay. I will send out notice that it is time to gather for a war meeting.
All right then. Gather everyone does. Nobody quite invites Alysain Mormont, but she shows up. She's just like, she just kind of might have been following everybody. But in Lord Makar's Solar, you have Prince Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, the Lady Alysain Mormont, the young she-bear, Lord Edric Dayne of Starfall, Ser Balon Swann, the second son of Stoneholm, and your PCs, along with a pair of maesters and your grandfather, Lord Makar.
It's
about as crowded as you've seen it.
Anyone else feel like we're in trouble? Or is that just me?
I think for once I'm a little bit more sure that we're not in trouble.
eventually the Lady Alcide kind of shuffles towards the door and just opens it and then kind of shuffles out into the hallway. She's like, I'll just keep an eye out for Red Vulture spies and such. And then you see her like fanning herself in the breeze in the hallway. And with the door open, it does improve circulation a bit. So she's gonna mind the door. And it gets a hair less crowded and a little bit more breezy. But she's like not even hiding it. That she's like, whew, and still getting used to this stuff. And she's like holding the edges of her fur-lined cloak and like rolling it in the wind. Like, I like to fan the sheets on the bed when it's too hot. She's like out there doing that with her cloak, like
Someone gotta get her out of those furs.
And she has gotten down to just the. I mean, it probably wouldn't
I'm
be
not sure what
impossible.
voice that was, but
She has gotten down to just the fur-lined cloak, and her boots from her northern wear. She's traded out the rest of it for more stuff, but she just seems determined to keep this fur-lined cloak so folk remember where she's from, and oh, let the Vulture King's bastards know that Bear Island, rawr, falls upon them. Like, she just will not be swayed out of that cloak. But she's
You
suffering.
gotta get her like something that's in light silk but with bears on it.
Yeah. So that is the assembled war council, and your grandfather, Lord Makar, sits behind his desk with Bela at his side, and he just looks faintly amused as he reaches and pours himself some wine and then passes the pitcher around, and he's not speaking. He's like making a big point of just like, I'm gonna sit here and sip this tea, and he's just like, he's not taking point in this council in his solar. It looks like it's gonna have to be Bela.
Okay. So, thank you all for coming. It seems we have quite the task ahead of us in the next couple weeks. Seems by order of the king and by Prince Doran, we are to take on the forces of the Vulture King and put an end to his blight that has been a plague upon these lands for far too long.
Ser Balon gives a cleft-jawed nod, and he goes, root and stem, I believe our raven said.
Indeed. Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm looking forward to the honor of putting an end to this. It'd be no small feat to end the Vulture King and the glory that comes with it.
Most of them nod, the Red Viper rather savagely, flashing a very predatory smile. And he seems like just really mad about those 2 arrow holes in his jacket. But he's just like, yes, no, I have decided I will kill this man, So he looks ready. Ser Balon Swann looks a bit more grim and serious, because Prince Oberyn doesn't look very serious very often. When he does, it's normally a really bad sign. But yeah, so Ser Balon looks kind of grim and ready. Young Maester Ferris looks excited. Like he has clearly never been to war and clearly doesn't remember Robert's Rebellion. And he's like, yeah, I gotta write this down. And he's already like scribbling notes quietly in the corner. And if you guys all have pretty high awareness, you can actually see in the margin of his notes, it looks like he's trying to sketch everyone. He's like switching back and forth from his quill to like a little piece of like charcoal. And he's like trying to do like the courtroom reporter thing on like a, separate thing. Like he's just like this is gonna make me famous. And maybe they'll transfer me away from House Dannett, or maybe, like he's looking to like, he's excited about this. And like there's some pretty famous people in the room, and like he's like, this is my moment. So he's looking pretty excited. Maester Elston and your grandfather are not, because you know they remember the war. But yeah, go ahead, Ash.
I was just saying, not to sound vain or anything, but Adam is going to stand very still and angle his good side towards Mr. Barrett.
Uh,
try to look very, very noble and heroic.
I don't think that it's impossible for Adam to just turn to the side just a little bit and flex a little for as long as he can, and absolutely in keeping with his character. But you guys can't help but notice again, we're going to save the rolls because you guys just all have as a group, you have a high awareness. Edric looks guilty instead of excited. It's a look that you recognize on squire-aged lads. And he just it doesn't look like he's just worried about this. And like, right before anybody can comment on it, you can see, like, on his open features, see him like muster up the courage to like speak up, right? Like, it's that kind of dramatic moment in like a young adult TV show, right? Where like the camera slowly pans around and like right before anybody can comment, you see him kind of go and start to talk, right? It's that sort of like, I have to do this, it's time, and he does. And his high-pitched, youthful voice speaks up with a more serious tone than you have heard from him before, and he goes, I am not looking forward to fighting the Vulture King. He taught me how to fight.
What?
And
what do you mean by that?
And here he is, like, his feature is like, chin is up. He's determined to look like a lord, right? And like, shoulders are squared, but down at like waist level, you see his hands very boyishly, like picking at the seam of his shirt, right? In this like nervous anxiety. He says, we know who the Vulture King is in Starfall. His name is Jonathor Sand. He was one of Baratheon's, one of the Rebellion's bastards. We call them Baratheon boys in Starfall. We, much like the war orphans, many of them have turned to fighting in the name of House Dayne, and I know that this is John.
How do you know for sure?
When John left, and when the Vulture King got worse, and something we heard from a merchant after they got away from the Vulture King, and some more reports that I got just now, information that would not leave Dorne, and so it could not reach me in Blackhaven or King's Landing. I'm sorry, Ser Balon, but Dornish business needs to stay in Dorne sometimes, but because you're in Dorne now, you deserve to know. And Lady Bela, because House Nymaryen is leading us, you need to know too. And if I'm to be a knight, I need to be brave. So, I'm sorry, but he was trained at Starfall. It's our fault.
It is not your fault. Many people get training from all sorts of places, and they don't go out and do the kinds of things that the Vulture King does. It's not the fault of who trained them. It's the fault of he who commits those crimes.
Well, everything I remember from John is good. And that's what I don't understand about all this. He served us for a time He grew up in High Hermitage. He had some falling out with Gerald. Everyone has fallen outs with Gerald. And he came to Starfall and finished his training and such. And last time I was home, I offered to knight him, and this was about a year ago. And he said no. He said he wanted to earn his place in the world himself. And then, from what I hear, less than a month later, he left. And then, from what I hear, it was a month or two after that that folks started hearing about the Vulture King instead of just hearing about brigands. And it's John. He always used to talk to me about wanting to carve himself a place in the world. And from what I heard from this merchant, it looks and sounds just like him and fights just like him. And he's hell with a sword, milady, and sirs and milords and such. Some folks say he might have been my Uncle Arthur's boy. He ain't, but he fights that good, and he's got that look. But he ain't. He's not a Dane bastard. Not my Aunt Ashara neither. I heard some say that it was Lynn Corbray that put him in a Dornish belly, but that's just on account of he fights so good, and half the bastards in Dorne get blamed on the bastard of the Vale. Some say, Prince, he might be yours, but some say that about any
The other half.
Any sand that fights as good as him. I'm sure they don't mean nothing by it. I've heard it say he might belong to John Derry, on account of he's as good with a sword as a member of the Kingsguard, and his name's Jonathor too. But I swear I don't know, except I know he's no Dane, or we would have raised him in Starfall instead of sent him off to High Hermitage. But he's just some rebellion orphan that got raised up, trained by our knights and such, and but everything I've heard about him, it sounds like him.
Okay. Thank you for telling us. That'll be some very important information as we go forward.
I'm gonna approach the boy and put an armor on his shoulder. And you can still take the black.
He could. I think he's like to.
Perhaps, if I may make a suggestion, that if he is indeed the Vulture King, we can try to. We still have to have this fight, but we can try to find some way to speak with him or bring him in relatively peacefully, and perhaps ask for the answers that we don't have.
There's a very disapproving look on Lucaris's face right now.
Mm-hmm. Same with Bela.
And Edric,
I'm not saying that he doesn't need to be brought to justice. I'm just saying that there are clearly some unanswered questions that perhaps, if possible, we should try to get answered.
I give Bela a look that basically says, like, you say something or I will.
So, from what we know, the Vulture King does all sorts of terrible things in this area. Him, his men. I don't think it's as easy as just talking to him and bringing him back. Sure, we can get to the ends, we can find him, we can pressure him into surrendering if possible. But I can't imagine there will be any sort of leniency.
I never used the word leniency. I also didn't say it would be easy. I'm merely suggesting that Lord Edric here wants to know why he's made this choice, and if he has the opportunity to ask that question, then who are we to deny him it?
But those questions have to come at the front of an army.
Which is why we need to defeat the army first.
We can try and find out, but it's not all on us, right?
Sorry, Lord Edric, I did try.
It's not your fault. I know that High Hermitage. I'll not speak ill of my kin, but Sir Gerald is a meaner lord than I want to be when I grow into it. And his men are meaner and fiercer, and they fight one another more, that sort of thing. They're just meaner. And I think that when John left, he took nigh half a High Hermitage with him. And Gerald has been cagey with me in numbers, and I haven't been home to ask for more in any sort of forceful way, but from what I've heard, he might have taken a good 100 knights of High Hermitage with him that just decided to leave with him when he left. And I think he just promised them something better than working for the Dark Star and finding their own place. And when I was young, he used to talk about how he wanted to go to Essos or somewhere and just be a sellsword, or just, he's always wanted to just carve himself a place. And I guess he's doing that in the Red Mountains now. And I know we have to stop him, and I know we might have to kill him. I'm sorry that House Dayne has done this. And I'll be talking to my cousin Gerald about it when this matter's cleared up. I'll try to find out more about what he did to make John do this.
Well,
All right,
it's
we
good
stopped.
that you.
Go ahead.
It's good that you brought this to us, and House Nymaryen would be the last house to have the high ground to give another house grief for something that its ancestors have done. So, I can only speak for myself, but I don't think that you should take this entirely on yourself.
Grandfather Makar does not comment.
Luke is a very disapproving kind of like head shake to that comment as well.
Bothered?
Well, then let me say this.
Nobody listens to my opinion anyway, so.
We will do what we can to find out the purpose behind the actions of the Vulture King. I won't promise that we will find those answers, but we will do what we can.
I mean, I wasn't trying to promise anything. I'm just thinking that if that many men went with him, there is a larger dissatisfaction at play that, if not addressed, will happen again.
Fully agreed.
Well, then why did you look at me that way? Never mind.
We can discuss that after this meeting.
So Edric lets out like a big gusty sigh, like, whew, all right, that's off my chest.
I give a pat on the back.
And that's all. He makes a little bit of a face.
Okay. So, where things stand right now is that we have some additional forces a few days away behind a rock slide. Hopefully they will be here soon. We currently do not have information on where exactly the Vulture King is set up. We have instructions essentially to march in the direction of the other forces and sort of pin the Vulture King in between us. But I would like to have some information before we just blindly march in that direction.
Outriders then?
What's that?
Outriders then? We can send a few horsemen in front of everybody.
Yep, I would like to send some cavalry and perhaps a contingent of guerrillas to scout in that direction to give us a forewarning of potential ambushes or which paths might be the best suited for an army of our size. Yeah, so we will be heading in the direction of Kingsgrave, which is the seat of House Nymaryen.
Ser Balon gives a bit of a nod. I've seen him tilt before. He's fair enough with a lance. It's my understanding there's another Dornish force down here that and Lord Bryce is supposed to be riding with that lot.
All right. Does anyone have any suggestions for immediate needs or have any ideas?
Ser Balon kind of squares his shoulders a bit and he's like, with a bit of food and water and a good night's rest, my men will be ready to leave tomorrow, my lady.
Okay. I would like to potentially wait on the rest of the forces to arrive, if possible, so that we're not separated.
Ser Balon and Edric give each other a look, and then Edric nods. Because remember, even though he's a squire, he is the Lord, and Ser Balon isn't. But he gives Ser Balon a nod, and then Ser Balon says, Lord Dayne and I discussed it, and knowing Lord Beric as we do, we're pretty sure he'd be furious if the lot of us waited on him. Likely better that those of us already here head up into the mountains and he and his lads can catch up when they can.
Okay. In that case, we will move out on the morrow.
Bela,
Yes.
I'd be willing to ride with the scouts, if you'd like.
All right. Very well. Is there anyone else who would also like to ride with the scouts?
Lord Edric says, I'd prefer to ride with my men, at least for a bit. I know we should be several days' ride to get to Kingsgrave, and our riders can certainly take a turn at scouting, but I need to see better just who's here and what else they may have heard from home.
Very well.
And Ser Balon nods in agreement with, of course, the Knights of Stonehelm will take a turn as outriders as needed, or perhaps some of us could ride along with the Dornish scouts that know the terrain better. So looks like they're determined to hang out with the Dornish folk and like make this a productive enterprise. The Red Viper very pointedly finishes the pitcher of wine into his cup as Ser Balon Swann is talking, and then chugs his goblet or in kind of one go, and just thumps it down on the table and goes, "Why not send out some riders tonight? My daughters will go if your brothers are scared." Your brothers being a generic, all your fighting men, not like your brother. You know what I mean? But he's just kind of like, we can send riders out ahead of time.
I would be honored.
Yes, I think that would be wise.
Very well. Let the Sand Snakes lead the way for this exciting venture. Don't worry, my girls will make sure that it's safe for the Stormlanders to travel where they will.
But who will keep them safe from your daughters?
Gives an absolutely careless shrug. They hunt where they will. Ser Balon, for his part, is not rising to the bait. He's not gonna like get into a contest of wits and then also poisons or something with Prince Oberyn Martell. Or, again, he seems to just be determined to take this seriously and not kind of fuck it up. So he doesn't sling insults back or anything like that.
Well, it sounds like I'll be leading tonight then. Do we discuss anything else, Bela, before we call this council meeting?
I can't think of anything else.
After we get done scouting, whether we find anything or not, we'll meet back up in Kingsgrave in several days. Is that what you want?
I would prefer some regular check-ins from time to time. Like, don't just like go there.
Yeah, out of character, the idea would more be like the riders will go ahead and then half of them will like double back to share what they see, and then they kind of swap with the party in front. So it's kind of a staggered approach. That said, a small group of riders could ride ahead straight to Kingsgrave and then go like, hey, we should be here in 2 or 3 days, or you know what I mean? So it's not unusual for some riders to go ahead and like help coordinate, but yeah, my assumption was more riders would ride ahead and then kind of ride back and share what they know, ride ahead and kind of slow down and let the army catch up, and hey, here's a spot, we found a camp tonight, here's, you know, so yeah.
Okay,
not,
yeah, that all makes sense.
Riding ahead of, not away from, I guess is the difference there.
I haven't been in a medieval campaign in real life before, so
It's fine. Yeah, Edric says, I'll let the men know to be ready to leave tomorrow, except for any of them that want to volunteer to scout ahead. A few of the men have been campaigning in Dorne for a while, including in the rebellion, so the older ones might be more capable of scouting. They may have gone after bandits in these hills before, so I'll leave it to them to see how many of them want to do it. But even the ones that want to ride with the main caravan will be ready to go tomorrow, my lady.
Okay, this sounds like we have a plan.
All right. Everyone gives Bela like confident nods. And from the hallway, Lady Alice saying, I'll have Robert ready to go. She'll get her army ready with that one. Yeah. Everyone shoots a quick glance to Lord Maekar before they leave. Likely even like you guys, if you're getting ready to go. Like, just kind of double check before you leave the principal's office. But Lord Maekar is content to sit and listen, and he's occasionally taking a sip from his mulled wine, and he's otherwise just kind of sitting with his fingers steepled and listening. And there's just the briefest of pauses where people kind of stop and check. There's no last minute instructions from their host here. And for a moment, there's just the scratching of the quill of Maester Ferris finishing his notes. And then the NPCs, at least, take their leave. You notice that Prince Oberyn has somebody else's thing of wine in his hand as he saunters out into the hallway. You're not sure whose he took, but you know he finished his.
That's pretty on brand for him.
I nod. I look over at Bela and Grandfather. Well, I'll talk to you two in a few days, it sounds like. If nothing else.
Be careful out there.
That is my intention. I kind of linger for a moment.
Yes, Luke?
Just taking everything in. I'll go get ready now. He goes in and leaves.
Anybody else got any particular plans?
No, I mean, unless he's being told to stay, like once everyone's kind of dismissed, like Adam will leave too.
Yep. Grandpa Makar doesn't seem interested in making you lot stay. It's maybe the first time you haven't had to be excused from his solar, right? Like he tried to make it clear that like he was listening, but this wasn't his meeting. So it's probably a little bit of a looming adulthood moment, or type of vibe, as like this is the first time that you lot haven't really had to wait, even when it's been a good meet me in the solar, like a positive discussion or whatever. He seems content to just go back to some of his books and papers and start writing raven-sized letters that he is hunched over so that Maester Ferris cannot see them. Not like comically so, but just he's writing them over on the other side of his desk so that the Maester that's recording everything doesn't see. But yeah, he doesn't seem interested in making anybody stay or formally get his permission to go. He's not pushing anyone out. There was no like, yeah, get out of here. So if people had questions for him or wanted to double check anything, he is still available for role play, but it looks like he's trying to make a very big show of not like taking this from his grandchildren and like making sure that they're going to get the credit for it.
I'm going to wait for everyone to exit, and then I'm going to try to chat some with Grandfather.
As you in particular linger, Grandfather will turn and just give Maester Ferris a wordless look. A very almost Tywin Lannister stare, right? Like Grandfather has that same kind of energy pretty often. It's a Christopher Plummer instead of a Charles Dance, but it's that same look from time to time, and he just looks and gives Maester Ferris a look. Yes, of course, quite right. Sorry. And he sprinkles some salt on the ink and he gently blows away some of the charcoal from his sketches, and it takes him about 15-20 seconds to get his stuff together and kind of adorably bumble his way out. And you hear him calling out in the hallway, "Oh, wait, Ser Balon, I wanted to make sure I heard this part right." And he scampers off to go double check that a quote is accurate. Did Adam leave?
Yep.
Okay. So, it is Lady Bela, Lord Makar, and the House Maester Elston, which is about as private as things get in here. He's part of the wall.
Uh, Grandfather, I've learned a lot from you over the years. You haven't said much yet. I was hoping you might have something to say before all of us head out tomorrow.
He finishes his line in a raven thing, and then pointedly puts the quill back in the little stand and lets out maybe the tiredest, oldest sigh you've ever heard from him. This is kind of it almost reminds you of Edric Dayne's little sigh before he started talking. He's about to have to muster up something unpleasant that he hasn't wanted to say. He says, "We both know I cannot command this campaign against the Vulture King. My place is Wyvern's Rest, and it will be until the day I die. This is your battle to fight, your war to win. But I will tell you, Lord Edric has a good heart, but it is a heart that is not cut out for full command just yet. Don't give this Vulture King the opportunity. If he tries to kill you, you remember what the Strong Sider has taught you, and Sir Adam and your Aunt Elia. Kill him back."
Do not worry yourself over that, Grandfather. I have no intention of dying just to find out some of these answers.
If some up-jumped bastard is determined to carve for himself a piece of the Red Hills, you just don't let them. You stop him, and you don't worry about why. Edric's a good lad, but he's a lad yet. And so is your brother. They have good hearts. I would like it if they stay that way for a bit longer, but not if it means some bastard stabbing them in it.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful in the mountains. More armies have been lost there than anywhere else in Westeros. Out of character, that's kind of just a saying. You know it's not true. You've read history books, but it sounds good. But yeah, he just sounds worried for his grandkids in a way that is probably terribly frustrating for him, because it's also him having to admit how old he is, etc. So, Grandpa's got some shit on his plate right now.
Okay. Thank you, Grandfather. I will see this business to its end, and will bring back all of our family.
I'm sure that you will, granddaughter. I'm sure you will. I think there's very little that you and Rhaena cannot do with your brother's help. But be careful. Be decisive. And when the time comes, if you must, be cruel. If a line is about to break it. And kill them while they run. Don't give them a chance to recover themselves and come back. Show them why these mountains are red. I know that you can do it.
I will.
Troop dispositions are entirely at your disposal, granddaughter. Leave behind who needs to be left behind to keep the rest of us safe. This Vulture King is supposed to be as clever as he is cruel. I would not put it past him to try and lure a force into the mountains to then do seven knows what. Leave who needs to be left, but take what you need to take. We'll be fine.
Okay.
which is mostly him just saying it's entirely your call. He's not telling you anything you don't already know,
Yes.
but it's him kind of making another big sign of like, hey, it's up to you who to tell to get ready to leave tomorrow. And it's still kind of mid-afternoon. So like there's time to finish making that call and to let people know.
Yeah.
So it's just him formally like, and you get the feeling he may have been putting off that decision. Like you think he might have waited until tonight and then been like, yes, well, that's a good idea, but here's who you're going to take. Like that wouldn't have been impossible for him to do, but instead you are left with this strong impression of like, no, he's not going to do that. He's like, he is absolutely leaving the house in your hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and what he said was exactly the dilemma that's on my mind. It's without knowing the strength and forces of the Vulture King, I don't know exactly how many of our troops we need, and I'd rather have more than I need, but I don't want to leave our home vulnerable to the kind of backhanded, dastardly tactics of drawing us away only to attack while we're gone. So, yes, that's exactly what I've been considering.
Trust also in our walls, granddaughter. We have halls, we have towers, and we have Wyvern's Rest. I would rather you err on the side of offense than defense.
Okay.
Oh, one last thing about leaving on the morrow. Your sister spoke with me. She is concerned about this Lord Beric. And, of course, the army with him, but I think this Lord Beric. She would like to wait until he and his men arrive and then ride with them to meet the rest of you at Kingsgrave. She asked for my permission, and I told her I would speak with you. It is ultimately your call.
Well, I know she's very fond of him, and while it would be very nice to have her with us as we march out, I think we could spare having her with us for a few days until they're able to catch up. So it is fine with me.
Perhaps you could leave her and one unit of Bridington Knights so that our Stormlander guests could have folks more familiar with the mountains to lead them through to it and help them catch up all the more quickly.
That was along the lines of what I was thinking as well.
Good girl, of course. I am sorry. I will keep to my letters and you to your troops.
All right. Thank you, grandfather.
We will see you at dinner, or perhaps not. And he gestures to the papers. Perhaps only breakfast.
Well,
we will see.
Let's make sure that we get to see you sometime before we head out.
Of course.
Okay. I have some more planning to do, so thank you again, and I'll see you soon.
You hear his quill scratching at parchment even before you leave. Like he's just perpetually got shit to do and letters to write, and looks like he gave himself that moment of kind of honesty and vulnerability, and then immediately got back to work. So, that's kind of where we're at. It is up to Erica / Bela to make the final determination of troops. In my head, of the gathered units of riders that you have, which is at least the two that arrived today, to say nothing of the rest of yours. It sounded like one unit of riders would be perpetually scouting. At least one other unit would be like the go-between. So I'd say we could cover the forward outriders scouting with like 2 units of knights from your assembled groups. And other than that, it's basically up to you to say who's going to be leaving in the morning. So like that's who's leaving tonight. And other than that, you know, like I said, it's make the call for who's staying and who's going to be patrolling the lands here in Nymaryen territory. I'm not going to make you worry specifically about where they are staying in Nymaryen territory, just to cut down on the paperwork that you need to do for stuff that you won't be here for. So, like, say who you're leaving, but you know, Sir Derek or grandfather or Aunt Elia will determine where they are staying. You know, like, I'm not going to make you worry about specific troop assignments at home. You just determine who's going to be here. And again, in the fluff, our montage of the week was you already determining that. So the ones you want to take are available to you to leave tomorrow. I'm just not going to make you set up the troops here in the lands. Just leave however many you want to leave, and then they'll worry about the rest off screen. So yeah, you make that call. And let's say that while Bela is pouring over the troops to do that, is there any particular role playing that Luke wants to do before he leaves? As you head down to the courtyard, where some, you know, a couple dozen riders are getting their mounts and stuff ready and bundling up several days' rations and that sort of thing, you do see Obara Sand preparing to ride, and a very openly sulking Elia Sand helping her, you know, checking on saddle straps and that sort of thing. But it looks like Dad doesn't want Elia going on the more dangerous scouting trip, but Obara is able to go. And other than that, it's your guys' call for who else comes. You've got your units, and you've also got some NPCs that you could choose to take.
Elia, in mind to interpret, you're not coming with us.
She seethes for a moment and then musters up her dignity. Father said the bulk of the army would be safer with me there.
Well, we are riding with some Riverlanders. I wouldn't want one to mouth off and you have to kill them. So maybe it's better this way.
I don't care. Stormlanders, not Riverlanders.
Oh, well, yeah. My bad.
That was clearly a verbal typo, not a thing. I just didn't want to confuse viewers. Yes, I suppose. But you better not kill them all without me.
You have my promise. With that, I will check in with her older sister and the knights with us, and other than that, I'm pretty much good.
Any other NPCs you want to recruit? You've got Alisane, you've got Oris. It sounds like Uncle Oberyn has decided that Elia and Damon Sand are staying with him. Like, he kind of decided for his retinue, but NPCs are available.
I will invite Lady Mormont along.
She will eagerly send Robert to get her things. And then she pauses after Robert leaves. She goes, listen, I'd like to send the lad, keep him with your sisters and the little one and such. He's not very good on a horse. I'm not very good on a horse either, but we've also only got the one. So it'd be best if he rode in someone's wagon or something. And the Vanguard's always the most dangerous spot, and I don't want anything bad to happen to the lad. So I'll tell him to stay. Yeah?
No, that's fine. And, well, technically we are scouting. There's no doubt in my mind this wouldn't have been the Vanguard of the forces, so.
So yeah, I'll ask him to stay.
And
yeah,
Lady Mormont, are you comfortable in the furs?
I'm fine. I'm just oh, what did that pretty little maester say? Acclimated. He asked me about that. Asked if I was getting acclimated. And I said, skinny boy like you, I'm acclimated better than you'd be on Bear Island. And then he blushed or something, and I think I scared him, but there's no meat on his bones. Not my style anyway.
No doubt. All right, so long as you're comfortable. We'll be leaving in a few hours.
Yeah, she seems confident in her ability to get ready in time.
I will run by Bela real quick. I'm taking Lady Mormont with us. Make sure that's okay with her. Other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
Alrighty then. The Outriders ride out. We're gonna hold on that front for now, and let's go check in on Adam, since he was the next of the Nymaryens to leave, and since he's not saddling up and riding out into the Red Hills of Dorne. What's Adam up to?
Well, nobody invited him, so I guess not. I didn't have very strong plans or anything, though. Kind of seeing the sort of kind of conflicted state that Edric was in, he'd probably kind of gravitate towards him because they kind of are for friends. After kind of traveling down and hanging out at Blackhaven for a bit and stuff, so I guess he would probably check in on Edric to sort of go like, right now that people aren't looking, are you all right, kind of thing.
Edric is camped out with his men. They do have a big fucking pavilion tent in the Starfall purple and stuff. Nobles ride to war in tents, but he's still in a fancy one. But he refused the Nymaryen hospitality of sleeping inside because his men are out there. So it's still like a big fucking pavilion tent that his men don't have. But like that's not nothing, you know, for a kid his age to turn down, sleeping inside. But yeah, he made a point of camping with his men outside. So that's where to find him.
Yeah, he's about ages with Adam, isn't he? He's about 16.
He's 13 or 14-ish.
He's younger than that. Okay,
yeah,
wow.
A couple years younger.
I thought he was about the same age as Adam. Okay, I mean, like, certainly I don't want to bother him while he's doing stuff.
He looks like he's just talking to a couple of his men. Nobody's writing anything down. It might just be small talk. It might be, planning to storm the castle after everyone's gone to bed, coordinating with what to put in the food before dinner to make sure that all the throats can be slit without causing a ruckus. Just normal Dornish conversation.
It's a good plan.
But yeah, it does not look like you would be interrupting. He just seems to be talking to a couple of his...
Lord Edric, would you have a minute to walk with me?
Oh, of course. And he gives a little nod to like one of the guys that he was talking to, and that guy heads off and he counts off, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, you lot up. And looks like they were talking over who was going to volunteer to go riding. But yeah, so nothing super urgent, and it looked like they were done. So that guy kind of stomps off in that direction with a very sergeant in a war movie voice going on. And Edric turns and looks to you and gives you a little bit of a, I don't want to say, like, not just a pleasant smile, but he always looks a little like eager, like, oh, what does somebody need? It's that sort of customer service smile, but like from someone that hasn't lost their soul yet to their customer service position, right? Like he's always like, yeah, what can I do for you? It's that sort of vibe. That's that big Edric energy.
He's a good guy, and I certainly would expect nothing less from, like, Beric Dondarrion's squire as well, because he's also a good guy. So I don't think Beric would let him be anything else. That's you have admirable command of your men. There are lords 3 and 4 times your age who don't have as good a rapport.
He flushes pretty cutely. He's pretty pale. Like, he's got that weird Danish blood that's almost Valyrian, with the pale blonde hair and the very, very dark blue eyes, but he's also got pretty light skin. But he blushes and looks a little sheepish. He goes, I do take some pride, Lord Adam, in that as likable as John is, not one night of Starfall left with him. It was just High Hermitage. My men are loyal, even if I'm not home as often as I'd like. They're good men.
I can see that. And, well, I would expect nothing less from the Squire of Lord Dondarrion. You've had a good teacher.
He once again kind of, I don't want to say humbly, but mildly embarrassedly nods. He goes, Lord Beric is grand.
Sorry, I'm embarrassing you, aren't I?
A little.
All right, I'm going to.
A little.
All right, I will cease my complimenting.
He just says it a little sheepishly, like, yeah, no, it's me.
That's fine. I will cease my complimenting, sincere though it is. And now that we are a sufficient distance from everyone else, I'm going to ask if you're all right. That seemed quite intense in the solar there, and I wanted to make sure that you're not just putting on a brave face.
Oh, I am. But I am also all right. I've been Lord Beric's squire since I was 10, and I've been his page since I was 7, and I'll not shame Starfall and Blackhaven together, just because I happen to know who this scoundrel was before he become a scoundrel.
Oh no, I know you won't. It's just I don't understand the exact situation. I've not been in that. I mean, my siblings and I were recently betrayed by someone we thought was our friend, so I feel I can relate a little bit. And well, I have no doubt that you'll do what needs to be done, and and everyone understands that. There can be a personal toll, and I personally think that it's all right to feel that and be honest about it in certain appropriate circumstances.
And he looks a little cheered up by the reminder of your recent betrayal, in like not a dickish way, which is like, well, right, we helped you with the trial of 7, and you'll help us with this.
Absolutely.
And then our houses will be even more allied, right?
Yes. So while I'm sure, well, you don't have to relish what is going to happen, but something good will come out of it.
And it just hurts because John and I are milk brothers, even. There's a Willa back home in Starfall that, I mean, she nursed me and half of the rebellion bastards before me. And I always liked him. Everyone always liked him. And I knew that he could be cruel. No one could serve at High Hermitage by being soft, and Lord Beric, he would not misspeak. Lord Beric always reminds me that all spurs are earned with blood, and I know that knights also have to be hard sometimes. But John, he always wanted more, and people always wanted to give it to him. they say that my uncle Arthur was chivalrous and brave and all the rest, but they also say that small folk loved him. Yeah, I've heard the story of the Smiling Knight and all, but I think Jonathor has that same thing. I don't know if I do yet, and I don't know if I will when I get older, but I know that Jonathor has it already, and I think that's what's causing this problem.
Well, I can't claim to know these things very well, but I believe that in every person is every possible good and every possible evil. And each person just chooses which thing they're going to nurture. So I believe he's made his choice for a reason. Perhaps ambition, like you say, but there may be something else. But I don't think it's anything to do with how he was treated. He seems to have been given every kindness, but it's clearly not it's not giving him something he wants, and it was probably always going to happen regardless of who was in charge. So
he's just always been hungry, you know, like lots of bastards, just wanted more than he got, just like that. But you know what that's like. He reminds me of you and the Lady Reyna. That sort of...
In what way?
I don't know. You'll grow into it too, I think, but... dignity. I know I don't have it yet, but you and your siblings do. And John, he just always seemed to have it. I think that's when he got resentful, because Gerald's got it too. Jerry's never been nice, and he's always been hungry too, and I think he's just been mad because we never gave him Dawn, and I think they want to give it to me when I get old enough. But that's what John kind of reminded me of Jerry of, and Jerry reminded me of John. They're both hell with a sword, but it's like that's not good enough for him. I just think that's what it is, and I know that that's turned Gerald mean. And I think it's just done the same to John, and I've heard the things the Vulture King's done, and I feel like my friend's already died.
That must be difficult. I can't really imagine what that's like, but I can imagine that it's hard to feel that loss even when they're still alive. And
I don't want to sound like I'm afraid, because I'm not.
You don't sound afraid at all.
Do my duty. It's just also make sure everybody knows I meant it when I said he's good. Don't tell Lord Barrick, but he's better than Lord Barrick. Don't tell.
I won't tell anyone.
But he's good. We need to be careful.
I mean, I believe you, and that's why I tried to convince my siblings that capturing him would be advantageous. I can keep trying on that front if you feel it would be helpful. I mean, there's only so much we can't really control the battlefield as finely as that, but if you feel that you need to ask him why yourself, I mean, I'll do what I can.
I don't think that it's in John to surrender. I saw him get mean once. The one time I saw him and I could picture this Vulture King instead of my friend, we was training with some knights that come down from Blackhaven for the engagement party. And the lads were sparring, and one of the Blackhaven men called him a bastard when John scored another point. And you know how Dorne is. We don't care about it much, but when a northerner says bastard, you know it's meaner.
Yeah,
And
I know that.
he called Jonathor a bastard, and Jonathor didn't let up. And it was just a wooden waster, but he took that man's eye with it. It just went crazy, like. And I think that's the Vulture King inside him. Not my friend John, and not my milk brother, you know? So I think it just, if he's being a Vulture King, he's acting like that. And
Do you think that?
I don't think he'll want to quit.
Oh, I expect not. Though, I wonder if your presence might make a difference. I mean, possibly not, but you.
We'll see. It's up to Lady Bela where I'll be in the fight. I'd like to be with my men, but I'll understand if I'm supposed to be with Lord Barrack, of course. But I don't know. I don't know where Jonathor will be. I don't know if there'll even be a fight. The bandits might just run. But there's a lot I don't know yet. But I do know one thing, and that's that if you'd like, you can call me Ned.
Oh, all right. If you'd like me to.
You don't have to always call me Lord Edric like everyone else. You're younger, so no one will even say it's an insult. But since I was little, they've called me Ned.
All right then, Ned. Like, there's a lot about this that we can't control, but whatever happens, if you need someone to talk to who is who won't necessarily know what you're going through, but will try to help, well, I'm here for you. All right.
Thanks, Adam.
No problem. I should start getting ready, so I'll go, but I'll see you later, all right?
We'll see you tomorrow when we ride to war. And he
Quite.
sounds an absolutely understandable 14-year-old combination of excited and eager and terrified and like disappointed that his knight isn't here, and like, it's like 6 different fields in that little line.
Yeah, I mean, Adam hasn't been to war before either. Well, he's not been to war, so he's kind of probably having a bunch of that himself. But, well, yes, for glory and victory and all that stuff.
He gives you a nod, like he missed the sarcasm, just like, yeah.
All right. Right, well, yeah, Adam will make his way back to the keep.
Sorry, everybody, I'm getting swarmed by Bodhi, who's demanding it is dinner time, but she is fine. So, back to Bela. Have you got your troop dispositions ready, and you can send out little Robert Frey and young Adam, your squire, and a couple pages of yada yada to let the units know who's coming and who's going?
Yes. I'm going to go a little bit more offensive with the forces that I'm taking with us. So I'm going to leave, aside from the one unit of cavalry out in Dannett lands, I'm going to leave one more unit of cavalry here in just Nymaryen lands proper to kind of be around to be able to ride to any location that might need it on short notice. but the remainder of the forces are going to come with us. And so, for chat's benefit and my siblings who don't have this spreadsheet that I've made, that is 2 units of guerrillas, 3 units of archers, and 3 units of cavalry of Nymaryen and Banner House's forces.
And keep in mind, viewers, most of these units are 100 dudes. Cavalry units are 20. But yeah, most of these units are a solid 100 guys. So you guys are going to be rolling out with almost 600 warriors of House Nymaryen. And then you've also got the troops from House Dayne and House Swann that are already here. You guys are going to be running a pretty sizable army, pulling up into those hills and doing some work. So we're gonna look pretty cool in tomorrow morning's scene of everybody pulling out and the armies marching by and stuff. So have we got any particular plans for roleplay tonight? I don't have anything that I have NPCs planning to spring on you guys at the feast, especially with Felicia already gone and with Lucaris already headed out into the mountains. There is kind of a feast more than just a dinner tonight because you guys do have visiting highborns. So it's not gonna be just a humble meal, right? But like also, this is the 3rd day in a row that they've had almost, sorry, because you guys had a week off in between, but 3 of the last 10 meals have been feasts for visiting dignitaries. So it's not super feasty, but I don't plan to spring any major drama on you guys there, partially just because 2 of the 4 players are going to not be there. But is there any drama that you guys plan on springing on me? I do want to give Adam and Bela the opportunity to do any role playing that they wanted to do at the feast before leaving. But just so you guys know, I wasn't gonna ambush you with anything there.
For my part, I think Adam was going to spend some time with little Robert and with Oris, talking about basically the stuff that got planned that they weren't there to hear, and not quite taking a kind of boss role of little Robert, but with him also being kind of put to squiring for the twins. Adam as the kind of older one who's got a bit of squiring experience, will probably try to give little Robert advice or try to coordinate with him of this is the stuff we're going to do, so that we're not tripping over each other while we're both trying to do stuff.
And for the record, you absolutely do rank him. You are from a more prominent position in your house, and you're a little older, and it's your house that's running this shit. So you are the boss of him. I'm not saying Adam has to act that way. Some bosses are really cool, like Felicia, who's a boss now. But yeah, you do definitely rank him in this strictly hierarchical, society.
But yeah, I think he's going to take that kind of like I say, not quite bossy, but definitely sort of. I'm a little bit in charge of you, so I'm going to say who's going to do what, kind of level, but I guess make it more of a conversation of what stuff are you good at, because he's not going to make him do things he's terrible at, but he still wants him to be useful, and just kind of strategize about how we're going to do our squiring in tandem. And yeah, with Oris, just kind of tell him what's going to be happening, because he hasn't got orders yet or anything, but we'll like probably Adam will want to kind of tell him what the conversation involved.
Does that include sharing the identity of the Vulture King?
Yeah.
Okay. Oris does not seem concerned. Like, I don't think you were expecting him to, but he just kind of acknowledges what you say. And he goes, huh. All right. And he says he might be as good as his uncle, the Sword of the Morning, not some other uncle I ain't heard of. There's not some other Dane I haven't heard about. Huh.
No, that's one.
And Oris just looks a little bastard hungry. Like, not the way Adam gets bastard hungry, but the hunger that bastards show. Like, Oris is just like, oh, so like this dude's a super big badass, huh? Cool. Somebody needs to tell me what he looks like, right? Like, it's kind of that look. Oris is like, okay, cool. Like, nobody's assigned me to a certain unit yet. So in theory, I could just charge this guy if we ever see it. You know, like he's got that look. Like he's just going, okay, I can go after the most dangerous dude. You know, looks kind of like the vibe he's got.
Oris, I know that look. I'm just going to say now. We all know that you are unparalleled with a hammer and a great sword and everything else. But you still need to go where Bella tells you to go.
I will, if she remembers to tell me. It just could be that bastards in Dorne are overlooked so often that she might forget to give me orders, and if that's the case, then I will act as I see to be tactically sound and such.
I mean, one, she's not going to forget to give you orders. And two, can you just try to stay alive, please?
No one's gonna kill me, Adam. I survived that pig fuckery in King's Landing without even knowing what the stakes were for me. And now I know what the stakes are. I'm not scared of some fight.
You know what? I wish I could be scared of nothing.
I didn't say I'm not scared of nothing. I said I'm not scared of fighting.
All right, okay. Fair enough. Right, okay, you think I'm stupid for worrying, so...
No, I think you're worried for worrying.
Probably.
Anyways, you're not my squire, so you look after your sisters, not me. They're a lot more likely to die in a fight than I am.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better, Oris, thank you.
So good at this.
You know what I meant.
I mean, I can imagine their faces if I tell them that you said that.
Tell Reyna first.
You know what? I think it's maybe a better idea that I kind of don't tell them, at least until we finish this. Finish all this. Otherwise, you know, there might just be too much friendly fire.
If you tell them and you stagger it so I can fight them one at a time, I think I've got a shot. But both of them at once, no. That might be a younger lad's dream, but not mine, because I've seen Bailey with that spear of hers.
Yeah. And well, you know what? Well, it'll be all right, won't it? Everything will be fine. I sound.
It's just war.
I've never been in a war.
Me neither.
Really? I sort of assumed that you and Will had gotten into some battles.
I mean, now that we both know why, I can understand it. I used to think Willie Will was a coward, but he ain't. He just had a belly full of it. And I don't blame him, especially the way he blames himself for the last big one, you know? But no, we were just tourney knights. He never looked to be a sworn sword or anything. Not even cleaning out a bandit den or the like. He always swore off. All he wanted to do, all he's done since he raised me was tourneys. Mostly the tilt, a couple melees, but mostly the tilt. I said he just lost his taste for blood in the rebellion. And now that I know why, it makes more sense.
Definitely don't blame him for that. Well, I suppose let's hope that this one doesn't leave us too much like that.
I doubt it. It's just my first.
Yeah, and you've got your friends backing you up as well, so we'll look out for each other.
The whole count 'em on one hand, a lot of you.
Well, that's better than some folk have.
That's better than I had a month ago, I suppose. Anyways, go check on your knights, Squire. Enough time talking at someone else's knight.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's about it then. I think we can cut to our badass scene in the morning of the gathered army assembling and marching out. Everyone gets a breakfast. The lady, Bessa, chases each of you down one at a time and is giving you this like bundle of extra food. And she clucks disapprovingly as like the supply wagons go by. And she's like, oh, all that shite, it'll get you killed. Eat it too, though. You need meat on your bones. But look, you lot, this stuff, eat it today. It's just like, and she's stuffing you each like this packed lunch type of thing. Basically, it's still warm to the touch. And also, yeah, don't crack up too hard, Luke, because somehow she heard about the riders going out last night. And you found a little bundle hooked over the saddle horn before you got to leave. So she didn't have the time to give you the lecture too, but you got a little bundle of food. But yeah, so she's like,
I will nibble on it as I ride out.
Yeah, she's chasing down each and every one of you before you can leave this morning, and you're getting showered in strategic advice of things like just don't fight on an empty stomach. That's about all the advice she has, and that sort of thing. But yeah, everyone's getting a bunch of food. She refuses to let them go out on empty stomach.
Well, having these things that you've made with your own fair hands, make sure that these are going to help when I miss you.
Oh, and she pulls you in, and you almost die. Like you are almost smothered
by kids.
In the famous bosom, which, for the record, is not the Deadpool that the rest of House Nymaryen has going for Adam. You're not the one that we expect to be smothered in a bosom.
I voted against that one. I definitely, my money's on against for Adam.
Like, honestly, all three of your siblings have better odds of that than Adam.
Yeah, unless they're pillowy man bosoms, Adam's not lining up to get smothered.
Yes, you are not caught in the vice-like grip of pecs. You are smothered in bosoms. But yeah, so she pulls you in for this big old hug.
Best like,
I'll miss you too. But you take that bow of yours. You didn't forget it, did you? You got it packed?
Oh.
All right, good. And yeah, she's like the way most wives would be like, don't forget some socks. She's like, don't forget your custom dragonbone bow. You murder lots of brigands with it. Like just give me a little chin, So everybody gets that stuff, including Bela, unless Bela's able to ward her off. Nah. She will respect the general of this army if you give her a too serious look. But if not, she's gonna give you the same sort of mothering as this troop of almost 1,000 fighting men that you're leading off into the Red Mountains of Dorne. Like, you're still gonna get mothered from her if you don't like pointedly stop her.
I would expect nothing less.
So, all right, you guys all get the smothering affection and an extra like satchel of food from the beloved Lady Bessa of Fleabottom, who has taken to the kitchens of Wyvern's Rest with gusto, zeal, and great affection. And it's hard to remember a time that she wasn't cooking for the lot of you here in Dorne. She is folding in those Dornish spices splendidly. Everything's just been going great, and she has basically taken over that kitchen in a thoroughly predictable manner. Unfortunately, grandfather insists that she stays, so she's not going to be able to go cow the Vulture King for you. You're going to have to use an actual army for that.
We'll win him over with food.
She can't just go chasing him into the hills and find out, oh, what's the matter, love? And you're going to have to fight this one. But
he wasn't bad, just hungry.
Yeah, we just gave him a bunch of Snickers bars and all the bandits left.
You're not yourself when you're hungry.
Meanwhile, though, having ridden through the night and making it to the point where you guys are like making your way down the Stoneway, and then basically the lot of you are just like turning right at a certain pass. Like you're just following the Stoneway south and then taking a right and heading towards Kingsgrave. But fast forwarding for that, there was a troop of riders that went out last night. So let's get the first of those perception style rolls from you. Give yourself one extra die, like not just a bonus, but an extra kept die to show that you're making this roll for yourself and multiple others. And we're going to break down this journey into a series of about 5 kind of points in the path that you guys are on your way to meet up at Kingsgrave.
Does the notice specialty apply?
Yes, it's the awareness notice. Yeah, that one.
Okay. I have a total, let's see, bonuses here of 17.
All right. You notice scuttling above you in the mountains proper, because remember that you guys are in a pass on the road, but you catch a glint of steel way out of bowshot. Like they're not looking to ambush anybody. But you know that you are being watched as your group of men are taking the turn and heading up into the mountains. Not much you can do about it. You know the mountains enough to know that, like, to get to that high ground, this is like a long-range recon type of thing. Where in the past, brigands and bandits and your own house guerrillas, it's been like, hey, you, take a week's worth of food. It's going to take you about a day and a half to get to a spot like that. Hang out there until you're low on food. Then you like, it's not we'll chase them up there, right? Like this is like a long-term sort of lookout nest. And then you realize also that wasn't a glint of steel. You're pretty sure it's a signal mirror. So it looks like it's definitely a long-term sort of passive reconnoiter type of deal. Not much you can think to do about it without getting way off course, but you know that you're not alone, at least.
Okay.
Which in a way is almost weirdly reassuring. You're like, hey, like they're not ghosts, right? They're just using lookouts. They're just, like, fine. I know I've done this before. It's just a bigger group of bandits, right? So
I will take notes of it, and I will also let Obara and Lady Mormont know what I've spotted, just so that they're kind of, I figure that they're around me, just so they're kind of aware as well. And we'll continue on our way.
All right. Alisane kind of rankles a bit, like she's indignant that someone is spying on her, and she kind of postures up as though you were mentioning that like someone was peeping on like a watering hole where you guys were bathing, right? It's that same sort of looking around, like, oh, how dare he, right? Like that's not fair. That's not what you're supposed to do. It's like, they're supposed to come fight us, you know. It's that same level of like not really like tactically bothered or afraid. She's just indignant. Like, you're not supposed to peep on people when they're taking a bath. You're supposed to go tell them you want to fuck them. And it's the same thing here. Like, you're not supposed to be skulking about in the mountains and then telling other people where we are. You're supposed to come fight me, right? It's that level of concern.
I will definitely give her a reassurance that
just,
all in good time.
Yeah, it's just kind of, she's offended more than anything else. But that is what you notice kind of at that way station along the way. And let's go ahead and let's do the second one. Well, no, we're going to kind of do them in order because you guys only have about a half day's head start because you couldn't make as good a time at night. So leaving kind of late afternoon, early evening, it's not actually like a full like 18-hour lead or whatever because some of that was riding at night. So we're just going to say that you guys are about one kind of checkpoint ahead. So, Bela, as the leader of the army, you make an awareness notice roll. Give yourself +1 kept die from the fact you're making it in the abstract for a whole big group, but give yourself +1 bonus die, so rolled and not kept, but just a bonus from Adam also being there, and presumably as your squire being close at hand as you guys are riding. So +2 extra dice that you would normally roll, keep 1 extra dice over what you would normally keep.
Okay.
That making sense?
It does, yeah.
All right. The difference between extra dice and bonus dice is one of the worst things in the system, because like bonuses sound good, yay, a bonus, and it's actually the lesser of the,
Yep.
So what are we looking at?
Let's see here. Well, on top of a Yahtzee, if we were playing that game, I have a total of 21.
All right, that's not bad. Unfortunately, this isn't one of the RPGs where I've played some where you get bonuses for doubles and triples and stuff. Instead of the totals of the dice, it's all about like the Yahtzee, basically, and they're interesting.
Oh.
But this is not that. But with your total of 21, you do also spot a signal mirror, and you actually spot a second one, like a return signal in the direction that you lot are heading to. So you are able to spot that you are definitely being watched, and that, like, oh yes, of course, signal mirrors. Like that's how they're gonna relay information. So you know that somewhere farther down the line, at the speed of holding up a reflecty thing in Dorne, which is the best place to do this sort of nonsense, like people are gonna know that you're coming. So you're a little concerned, but again, perhaps a little relieved, like, hey, like it started, right? In a way, it's maybe a little relieving. You're not necessarily waiting anymore. It's beginning, right?
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is then make me a warfare roll and kind of describe what you're doing about this. Like, what cool how have you got the troops arrayed to keep them safe if there is an ambush? Because taking this turn is kind of a good spot to rearrange the convoy, because you can have some kind of go a little bit past the turn and then wait and get back in line at a different spot, so like make a warfare roll first, but then just kind of describe what you're doing to keep your troops protected from like an ambush.
Okay.
Let me know what specialties you've got for warfare that might apply.
I have strategy as a bonus.
That worked, because this is a larger, I'm going by the more traditional definition of strategy. But this is a larger scale operation. So yeah, we'll let strategy.
Okay. I have a 15 for warfare. And
Okay.
my thoughts are that if we're being watched, that they'll know we're coming. And so they might be able to stage some sort of an ambush. And I would rather have sort of an evenly dispersed unit composition throughout our line, so that it's not like all of the archers in one place or all of the cavalry in one place. So it's kind of alternating those positions so that if an ambush happens, we have appropriate units to deal with the ambush as it happens.
All right. So a general diversification of troops as just kind of insurance policy, spreading everybody out kind of evenly in the convoy. Sounds like. So
Yeah.
all right. Not too bad. That'll work. So that spot is called the Cut. That's kind of our first abstract checkpoint. Okay, on the 4 days ride expected to get to House Manwoody. So let's cut ahead to our scouts. Luke, you are at the first kind of way station and likely camp spot, and that is the Hot Spring, where it's really, thickly mineralized mineral water type of thing, and it's almost kind of alien Martian looking because you're deep up in the mountains, and then you've got these occasional spots with, they almost look like geodes sometimes when you see like the mountain springs where it's like this mineral rich stone around a jacuzzi looking thing.
Yeah,
It
I
almost
have brought women to the hot springs, and I can't even enjoy it. I have to do work.
So this is kind of the first way station, and it's a common spot to stop, because kind of one spot's as good as any other in the Red Mountains. So people have just kind of found things that have something interesting about them that are about a day away. So give me our awareness roll for the Outriders at the Hot Spring.
Okay, let's see here. Uh, 22.
Whoa, nice.
Okay. You have been able to notice throughout the day.
I'm sorry, I keep an extra dice. I forgot about that. 24.
Still post 20, so yeah.
It was a good roll.
That was the vague threshold I had set. It was like 20 plus is about this much. So not quite enough for the next one. But yeah, you notice signal mirror activity throughout the day. And it's alternate. It's up real high, and it's a little on the left, and then a little on the right. And it, this isn't unusual. It's a level of organization that is a little unusual, but just the idea of the signal mirror lookouts, you've run across that before. It's kind of standard in Dorne. Who knows how well it works in the north. But yeah, you're able to kind of keep track of that throughout the day. And when you get to the hot spring, you notice that there's like the remains of a campfire there. And it's actually about 5 campfires that have been put out within the last day, and people have hastily left. And kind of normal generic troop disbursement, you can have 6 or 8 guys to a cook fire pretty easily. So this could have been a couple dozen bandits, or it could be, 3 bandits on a long-term lookout duty that quickly made a half dozen cook fires and then put them out and left. Right?
And I have about 40 riders with me, is that correct?
Yeah, you've got about 40, and by this point in the arc, you've probably got about 10 of them that are like riding back and forth to check in with the rest of the convoy. So you've got, 25 or 30 with you. But yeah, it looks like they've been using this as kind of a campsite.
What I'd like to do is obviously we'll send a couple riders back to check in with Bela and let her know what we've seen. But I'd also like to push my men to, we're going to camp here and leave extra early in the morning and try to get ahead of these guys.
Okay.
I'll drive them a little bit if we have to. I'm sure there'll be some penalties, but
Yeah, that's understandable, and we'll worry about it tomorrow. Which means next up, we've got Lady Bela leading the army of the Stoneway. Somebody should write that down. I'm a genius. Leading the army of the Stoneway. And you guys are making your way to the hot spring. And again, you guys kind of know about these sort of way stations. So for the abstraction of this day's travel, Bela, give me a roll.
All right.
Same bonuses as last time, and then add 1 to your total to reflect also getting some intelligence from Lucaris's.
Okay. I have a 27 on this roll.
Oh, you almost made it. Yeah, that's pretty okay. You also notice the campsites, but you notice some signal mirror activity. You're a little bit surprised that you're not seeing more, but you notice from like the riders in the back, you're checking with them, and they're like, no, we didn't spot anything, milady. So it looks like only kind of towards the front of the army that you're seeing any sort of flickers of light or the occasional falling stone or the occasional somebody, kind of skidding around in the high ground. And it looks like they're kind of leaving with you. Like as you're pushing, it looks like even their lookouts are like dropping some Morse code and then fucking hoofing it. Is basically the vibe that you get. But you are still able to make it to the hot spring without incident. You notice the campfires that were left behind and that sort of thing. But nobody attacks you. Things seem to be fine. So, the next day, trying to figure out how to do this. Okay. You are going to roll the same thing for Lucaris and his guys, Robert. But get yourself 1 bonus die for making haste. But I am going to roll 1 die and add it to the difficulties that I had already set for this. So that'll reflect the kind of randomness of leaving early but maybe not resting as much as you should have. I think that works. So
Okay.
You'll get 1 extra die, but they'll get 1 extra die.
You should have stayed in the hot springs.
well, I got some good rolls. I'm not regretting this.
Also, before you guys left, because you did still, like, oh, even if we leave before daybreak or whatever, did you tell Lady Alisane about the hot spring? And still, like what they are?
Yeah, I'm sure he would have been talking to all over.
Yeah,
lamenting the inability to really enjoy them.
She was like, speak for yourself! And she insists on soaking for a bit before going to bed. She keeps her axe within arm's reach at the edge of the spring, but she makes a big show of very slowly, oh, even the water here, oh, this is madness. But she enjoys it, and she's completely.
Luke will survey the men, just make sure none don't have any wrong ideas, and
it takes a special kind of crazy to offend a naked Alisane Mormont.
I'm looking out for their safety mainly.
Right, no, we can't afford to lose any riders. But yeah, she just takes the spring to herself. And soaks in it for a while before bed. Anyways, on to your total for the next day.
5 dice. I have an excellent roll here. It is 12, 16, plus 8 is 24, plus my 4 bonus is 28.
All right. That is not bad at all.
One of the best rolls I've had in a long time.
You are able to spot for about half of the next day there are clear marks of haste. And between you and in the abstraction, some of your riders are okay at tracking, but you also are spotting some occasional very small rock falls from above and stuff. And for about half the day, you notice that like they must be really kind of hurrying to stay ahead of you, which is understandable because that's not horse territory up there. But they have, probably shorter paths than you, because there's oftentimes you've got to zig and zag, and, who knows. You guys often see kind of crude rope bridges that bandits set up so that when you have to turn to follow a path, they're just going straight across. So it's not unusual for them to be potentially keeping up. But yeah, then about halfway through the day, it takes a little bit, but you go, wait, like this is weird. Like nobody's spying on us anymore. And in a way, it's almost alarming, the lack of it. Because it does suck every time you spot it. There's a little movement ahead. Like, is this one going to stick around with a bow? Right? When are they going to start fucking with us to slow us down and just hurt morale, or whatever? But it never happens. So it's tension every time you spot that movement up there. But then it's weird because you stay tense after that, and it takes like an hour or two before you guys go, like, hey, we haven't spotted that in a while. But yeah, so about half the day, you can tell you're being, for lack of a better term, foreshadowed, right? Like they're hoofing it in front of you, and then it just kind of stops. But you are then able to make it to, quote, the bad spring. There's a hot spring, a good spring, and a bad spring. The bad spring is also thick with minerals. It is not palatable water. So it's a hassle because you've got to stake the horses down away from it. You got to make sure nobody goes to drink it. It looks normal. It's an absolutely normal looking spring. And you notice something that's kind of unusual for these sort of poisonous springs that abound in the Red Mountains. There's no dead animals near it, nor any tracks or signs of dead animals near it. These motherfuckers cleaned it up, hoping that some of your men might not know this was a bad spring.
I'll make sure everybody's aware.
Yeah, like you could tell, like they've gone through, and it's not super often, but sometimes you'll find desperate animals that'll drink the bad stuff. And yeah, like these guys have left no trace of that. And you're like, yeah, no, like they're hoping we'll go fucking take a sip and then poop ourselves to death. So yeah, got a fair amount of information on your way to the bad spring. Which then means we cut from that cutscene of the same territory to Bela's cutscene of traveling through the same territory.
Real quick, Rusty, I'll make sure our riders alert Bela of that information, and I want to keep the same pace up at least another day.
Okay. So Bela, make your roll. Same thing as last time, and again, the +1 to the total, just like yesterday's.
Alright. Not quite as good as yesterday's. I have a 19.
Okay. You don't see anything.
Okay.
All day long. There's no scurrying scouts. There's no glimmer of metal or of flash of mirror, etc., etc. You do notice at the bad spring, which you guys know about, there's no ailing creatures or sun-bleached bones near the bad spring, which is unusual. And you probably come to the same conclusion your brother does, because you hate fucking thieves and bandits, and it's just like them to try to trick us, and,
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing else of note. Like you don't seem to be getting shadowed at all this day. Next up, on the way to the good spring, let's take it away, Outriders. This time, it's just gonna be a bonus die for the abstraction of having everyone. So you're gonna be rolling an extra die for having friends, rolling an extra die for the fast pace, but not keeping any extra dice. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Because it is starting to kind of wear on the horses and the men a little. It's getting a little bit harder to make out details with the glare and a lack of sleep, making things a little bit blurry.
Okay, not quite as good this time. We've got 17, 21 altogether.
You don't see anything. There doesn't seem to be anyone spying on you this time. And it's nice. There's no attacks or anything. But yeah, you don't spot anybody keeping an eye out. There's no mischief on the road ahead. And the good spring is just as is expected. It's actually smaller than the bad spring and smaller than the hot spring, but it is the first water that most people know of from since the hot spring, which is palatable, but it tastes really bad and it's not for drinking. But yeah, so it's not really a very good spring. It's just a lot better than the last.
Bad spring. It's relative.
Yeah, so
I will take the opportunity to clean up and bathe myself here.
Sure. And also everybody's able to get fresh water in their skins, yada, 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 which is part of the hassle of this trip, is that even if you bring enough, and everybody that knows brings enough, you all brought enough, it still sucks to be drinking the water that's been in a leather water skin until you get to the good spring 3 or 4 days later, right? So that's part of the issue. It's just God, this sucks after a while. Tastes worse and worse, and so everybody likes the good spring. It's nice. And you're not spotting any Dornish bandit ninjas shadowing you. So the next trip to the good spring is a pretty good trip.
Okay. Well, like normal, I make sure that info is shared, and I will let my men rest a full night today.
All right. Yeah, for the record, I promise I'm never going to screw you guys over if you forget to say, yes, my scouts report in. Right, I'm not going to pull that level of tomfoolery against you. Yeah, so you don't. Yeah. And the reminder is fine, and letting me know that you're going to get to sleep in is good. Not sleep in, you know what I mean. But yeah, I just don't want anyone to worry. I'm never going to be like, Erica forgot to say that they dig a latrine pit when they make camp. So now all
her army brought weapons.
So the whole army shits themselves and now they're sick. I'm not going for that level of, I assume that there is a general level of good faith competence from player characters that have certain skills, so yeah. So Bela, your role heading into the good spring, same as the day before. You got the same bonuses and stuff.
Okay. I have a 19.
Okay. Same thing. You don't see anything. And that's you heard back from the riders that went about half a day ahead, and then they kind of double back for you that yes, milady, Sir Lucaris didn't see anything yesterday either. The path seemed clear. But yeah, that's what you hear from them.
Okay.
Nothing jumping out at you. No spot, no sign of anything. Here at the Good Spring, you're not able to get the whole army to completely replenish, but certainly the knights, your NPCs, the nobles, etc., can. So yeah, everybody still kind of breathes a sigh of relief at the Good Spring. And last and not least is just a waymarker stone called King's Reach, which is just this is the last day on the way there, off the Stoneway. And it's just a series of waymarkers. There is no spring at all to be found here. It's just that there's a particularly notable big jutting stone that sticks up just over the path, and it's not like a waymarker stone where people can move the rocks, right? It's like a notable landmark as part of the mountain pass type of thing.
Yeah, that's reassuring.
So, well, I mean, the good news is they can't go hee hee and like pull a Bugs Bunny and just hit the sign in the road that spins around and then the arrow points the wrong way. And then Dooku's like, oops, we're marching towards Winterfell.
Well,
like
that was my plan. So,
so what's your perception roll for this day, Robert?
let's see. Let's see. I got some 6s. That's good. Let's see. Keeping 5 of these. Shit. 27.
All right. The path looks clear. You do see, as you're on the other side of the King's Reach, kind of arm that juts up out of the stone, you do see some pythons and ropes there. And it looks like in the not too terribly distant past, somebody actually used this as like a lookout perch. But assuming that you or one or two of the riders check it out, there's nobody up there at present. And it's not like trapped or anything, but you can see and kind of smell. It looks like he was kind of peeing and pooping just like off the edge of this fucking thing. But there's like a little fire where you can tell somebody huddled, but it looks like they've even used this kind of high perch point in the past. But it's been cool, like the fire was not just recently put out. It's been at least a day or two. So it does look like oh no, Westeros is falling. Your map behind you, Robert. Looks like it's coming down. But yeah,
that's a metaphor for.
But yeah, nothing else of note. It is a good enough roll to notice that they've been using this spot. But nothing else jumping out at you.
I will have the pigeons and the ropes destroyed just so they can't reuse it as we pass.
Okay. Because people can do that slowly and carefully, I'm not going to require a roll. If you guys ever have to do that sort of thing in the future under haste and or duress, of course, we're going to be making some climbing rolls and stuff. But anytime that people can really take their time for something like that, I'm not going to bog it down. And that leaves the last day of travel. My assumption here is that because you guys are now about a half day away from Kingsgrave itself, that basically the Outriders will be waiting here at King's Reach. And then you guys will arrive together. But your perception roll for kind of making it here, see if anything jumps out at you during the day, Erica / Bela.
Yeah, with all the same stuff, I have a 21 this time.
Okay. Not enough to notice anything that Lucaris didn't. So yeah, nobody seems to be still shadowing you all and spying and relaying position. But even so, you're, traveling in relative security, but still tension. Everyone's still kind of worried. But yeah, everyone is able to meet up there at King's Reach, which is the kind of highest point before it's a downhill slope for about half a day to get to Kingsgrave itself. So we're actually going to wrap up our episode there with 3 of the 4 siblings together, and Prince Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, and Lady Alysanne Mormont, the young she-bear, and the looming Sir Orys the Aurochs, standing in stark contrast to the much smaller Lord Edric Dayne, who looks tiny between Orys and Balon Swann, who's 4 or 5 inches smaller than Orys. He's a big dude himself, though. So little Edric, who's kind of ironically the most politically powerful of them, is a very standout in this epic silhouette shot, this landscape shot. And then little Robert Frey, who is turning his head and listening to some whispered advice from young Adam the archer, who is also looking out over this vista shot. And we're going to call it there, and we're going to pick up with Kingsgrave in 2 weeks' time. So thanks for swinging by on the raid, and thanks for coming by all of our regulars, of course. Thank you for the pair of destiny points that the Vulture King made today. That'll be fun. I've got that note somewhere. So we are all set. Hopefully we'll see everybody back here in 2 weeks' time. We are here every other Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Shadowcasters Network. And you can also find us at the Shadowcasters Network Discord channel, their Twitch sub channel. We've got our very own spot there, so feel free to come by and hang out. So thanks for coming by, everybody. And I'm done for the day. Anybody got any exciting geeky stuff coming up? Kickstarters to share, any other shows they're on, or cool stuff like that?
Nothing at the moment.
All right then. Let's get one last look at Ash's new tattoo, unless it's gonna knock over your computer or something. Because
No,
the people that got here late might have missed it. But this is the House Nymaryen sigil, and we'll cut to credits on this note of that badass freaking sigil that Ash drew, and then Robert refined, and then Ash got branded onto his body forever because he is fucking ride or die with this house. So,
Nice.
thanks for coming by, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks.
Bye.